February 14th, 2025, 3:47 a.m. The phone call every parent dreads came in the darkest hours before dawn. Michael Jordan, six-time NBA, a champion, global icon, billionaire businessman, stared at the unknown Miami number on his screen, his instinct already screaming that something was catastrophically wrong. Mr. Jordan, this is Sergeant Martinez with Miami-Dade Police Department. I'm calling about your son, Marcus James Jordan. In that moment, every championship, every accolade, every carefully constructed piece of the Jordan legacy meant nothing. Michael's youngest son was in trouble, real trouble. Marcus had been arrested on Interstate 95, DUI cocaine possession, driving 95 miles per hour while intoxicated, weaving between lanes, a small bag of white powder found in his Mercedes during the search. But that wasn't the worst part. And the worst part was what Sergeant Martinez said next. Your son keeps saying he needs to tell you something before we process him. He says it's urgent, that you'll understand why he did this, that there's something you need to know. Michael's hands trembled as he gripped the phone. The man who never showed weakness, who thrived under pressure, suddenly facing a challenge no amount of competitive drive could solve. His son was in jail. His son was an addict. And his son had a secret he'd been hiding for years. A secret that would change everything Michael thought he knew about his own family. The call that would shatter and rebuild the Jordan family had just begun. The vibration started as a whisper against the mahogany nightstand, then grew insistent. Michael Jordan's eyes opened in the darkness of his Jupiter, Florida mansion, his internal clock telling him it was wrong, too early, too urgent. The illuminated screen cast a pale glow across the bedroom. 3:47 a.m., February 14th, 2025. Valentine's Day. He reached for the phone, expecting Marcus's name. His youngest son sometimes called late after nights out in Miami, wanting to talk business or just hear his father's voice. Instead, the screen read, "Unknown number, Miami, Florida." Michael's chest tightened. 37 years of reading defenses, of knowing when something was wrong before it happened, kicked in. He sat up, his movement careful not to wake Yvette beside him. "Hello? Mr. Jordan?" The voice was professional, controlled, a cop's voice. "This is Sergeant Martinez with Miami-Dade Police Department. I'm calling about your son, Marcus James Jordan." The room seemed to tilt. Michael stood, walking toward the window overlooking the intracoastal waterway. Moonlight painted silver across the water. His reflection stared back at him in the glass, 62 years old, gray threading through his hair. The face that sold $1 billion in sneakers now creased with fear. "What happened? Is he hurt?" "He's physically unharmed, sir. But I need to inform you that Mr. Jordan was arrested approximately 30 minutes ago on Interstate 95 near Aventura. He's being charged with driving under the influence and possession of a controlled substance." The words hit like body blows. Michael had taken harder hits. The Pistons in '88, losing his father in '93, gambling accusations, divorce. But this was different. This was Marcus. "What substance?" His voice came out steady, with the same tone he used calling plays in the fourth quarter when everything was falling apart. "Cocaine, sir. A small amount was found in his vehicle during a search following a traffic stop. Mr. Jordan was driving 95 miles per hour in a 65 zone, weaving between lanes. He refused the breathalyzer test." Michael's free hand pressed against the cool glass. Behind him, Yvette stirred. "Michael, what's wrong?" He held up one finger. "Wait," and turned back to the window. On the nightstand, his 6 championship rings sat in a velvet case, catching ambient light. All those victories, all that success. None of it mattered now. Where is he? Turner Guilford Night Correctional Center. He'll be processed and held until bail hearing, likely later this morning. Sergeant Martinez paused. Mr. Jordan, there's something else. Your son has been emotional. He keeps saying he needs to tell you something before we complete processing. He says it's urgent, that you'll understand why he did this. Why he did what? Drove drunk? Used cocaine? I don't know, sir. He just keeps repeating that you need to know the truth, that he's sorry, but that you'll understand when he explains. Michael closed his eyes. Marcus, at 7 years old, sitting courtside at the United Center wearing a miniature number 23 jersey, cheering as his father hit the game winner against Utah. Marcus, at 16, quitting the high school basketball team, the disappointment Michael tried to hide but couldn't. Marcus, at 25, opening trophy room, finally finding his own path. Marcus, at 34, smiling in Instagram photos at clubs, always with a drink in hand. I'd always performing for the camera. When had the performance become the problem? Can I speak to him? Not until after processing, sir, but you can come to the facility. Given the circumstances and your son's state of mind, I thought you should know immediately rather than waiting for him to make his phone call. I appreciate that, Sergeant. Michael's voice cracked slightly. He cleared his throat. I'll be there within 2 hours. Mr. Jordan? One more thing. Martinez's voice softened almost imperceptibly. I grew up watching you play. My father and I used to watch every Bulls game together. You were his hero. Thank you. I'm telling you this because I want you to know we're treating your son with respect. But the law applies to everyone equally. You understand? I do. And I wouldn't want it any other way. Michael ended the call and stood motionless, staring at his reflection. The greatest basketball player of all time. 6 championships. 5 MVPs. Global icon. Billionaire. Father of a 34-year-old man sitting in a jail cell with cocaine charges and a secret he was desperate to share. Behind him, Yvette's voice came again, fully awake now. Michael, what happened? He turned to face her, and for the first time in decades, Michael Jordan, the man who thrived under pressure, who never let opponents see weakness, felt his hands tremble. It's Marcus, he said quietly. Our son needs help. And somewhere in Miami, in a holding cell that smelled of disinfectant and despair, Marcus Jordan sat with his head in his cuffed hands, whispering the same words over and over. He needs to know. He needs to understand. Please, God, let him understand. Chicago, Illinois, June 1991. Marcus James Jordan entered the world on December 24, 1990. A Christmas Eve baby born into basketball royalty. By the time he turned 1, his father had won his first NBA championship. The photograph from that night hung in Juanita Jordan's home office. Michael holding the Larry O'Brien trophy in one hand, infant Marcus in the other, both gleaming under the flash of 1,000 cameras. Marcus wouldn't remember that moment, but he would spend his entire childhood trying to live up to it. United Center, Chicago. March 1998. 7-year-old Marcus sat courtside, his legs swinging above the floor, unable to reach the ground. The roar of 23,000 fans pressed against his small body like a physical force. He wore his miniature Bulls jersey, number 23M, to Jordan, stitched across the back, and clutched a foam finger his mother had bought him. On the court, his father moved like liquid electricity. Marcus watched Michael drain a fadeaway jumper over 2 defenders, and the building exploded. Everyone around Marcus jumped to their feet, screaming, ecstatic. Marcus stood too, trying to match their energy, but inside, he felt something different. He felt alone. His older brother Jeffrey, 13, understood the game. Jeffrey would replay their father's moves in their driveway, practicing the same footwork, the same release point. Jeffrey spoke basketball fluently, could analyze defensive schemes, knew why their father positioned himself exactly 3 feet from the three-point line on certain plays. Marcus just saw his dad working, always perfect. So always somewhere Marcus couldn't reach. After the game, a Bulls victory of course, they waited outside the locker room. When Michael emerged, still damp from the shower, reporters swarmed. Marcus held his mother's hand tightly. Michael, how does it feel knowing this might be your last championship run? Talk about your legacy. What do you want your sons to learn from watching you? Michael's eyes found Marcus in the crowd. He smiled, that famous smile that sold Gatorade and Hanes and Wheaties. I want them to learn that excellence isn't an accident. It's a choice you make every single day. Marcus smiled back, even though the words felt heavy, like stones placed on his chest. Even at 7, he understood. Excellence was the family business, and he wasn't sure he had any to offer. Whitney Young High School, to Chicago. September 2006. Marcus was 16, a sophomore, and the basketball coach had been recruiting him since he walked through the doors as a freshman. Coach Williams was a good man, patient and encouraging, but Marcus saw the disappointment in his eyes during tryouts. "You've got the height," Coach Williams said, watching Marcus miss his 5th free throw in a row. "Good hands. But Marcus, where's the fire? Your father played like every game was life or death." "I'm not my father," Marcus said quietly. "Nobody's asking you to be. But you're a Jordan. People have expectations." That was the problem. People always had expectations. Marcus made the team. Of course he did. He was Michael Jordan's son. But he rode the bench most of the season. The local newspapers wrote articles. Marcus Jordan struggles to find his game. Social media, he still new but growing, was crueler. MJ's son is trash. Imagine having those genes and still sucking. The breaking point came in January 2007. Marcus was put in during a blowout loss, garbage time, when the game was already decided. He had the ball at the top of the key, wide open. The gym fell silent. Even the opposing fans wanted to see if he could make it. He shot. The ball clanged off the front rim. The opposing student section laughed. Actually laughed. Marcus heard it echo through the gymnasium, bouncing off the walls like the ball that refused to go through the net. He walked off the court and kept walking. Past the bench, past Coach Williams calling his name, through the locker room, out to the parking lot where his mother's car sat waiting. He didn't tell anyone he was leaving. He just left. That night, Michael called from a road trip with the Charlotte Bobcats, where he was now an executive. "Coach Williams called me," Michael said. "Said you walked out." Marcus lay on his bed, staring at the ceiling of his room. Posters of his father's career highlights covered the walls. The shrug game, the flu game, the last shot in Utah. His father, everywhere, watching him fail. "I'm quitting the team." Silence on the other end. Then, "Marcus, you can't quit every time things get hard." "I'm not you, Dad. I'm not asking you to be me." "Yes, you are." Marcus sat up, surprising himself with the volume. "Everyone is. Every time I walk into that gym, people are waiting for me to be Michael Jordan's son, the basketball prodigy. But I'm not. I don't love it like Jeffrey does. I don't love it like you did. Then what do you love? The question hung in the air. Marcus looked around his room, at the basketball trophies he'd never earned, at the Jordan brand posters, at the life someone else had designed for him. I don't know, he lied. Because he did know. He knew exactly what he loved, but he couldn't say it. Not to his father. Not to the man who had dedicated his entire existence to basketball excellence. Marcus, listen to me. Michael's voice softened. I played basketball because it was what I was meant to do. But you get to choose your own path. You don't have to play if it's not in your heart. But you can't run away from things just because they're hard. Whatever you choose to do with your life, you do it all the way. You understand me? Yes, sir. I love you, son. If basketball or no basketball. I love you too, Dad. Marcus hung up and opened his closet. Behind his basketball shoes, hidden in a duffel bag he hadn't touched in months, were his art supplies. Sketch pads filled with drawings, acrylic paints and brushes, canvas boards he'd bought with his allowance from a store in Wicker Park, lying to his mother that he needed them for a school project. He pulled out a blank canvas and set it on the easel he'd assembled and hidden in his closet. For the next 3 hours, Marcus painted. He painted a basketball court, dissolving into waves of color. He painted a small figure standing in the shadow of a giant. He painted freedom and imprisonment, and the weight of a name that wasn't quite his. When he finished, paint splattered across his hands and forearms. Oh, he felt something he never felt on a basketball court. He felt alive, but he also felt terrified. Because loving something his father didn't understand felt like betrayal. And Marcus Jordan, at 16 years old, made a decision that would haunt him for the next 18 years. He would hide who he really was. He would perform the role expected of him. He would smile for the cameras and build businesses connected to basketball and never ever tell anyone about the art. One day, he thought, one day his father would understand. One day, he would find the courage to show Michael Jordan who his son really was. He just never imagined it would take an arrest, cocaine charges, and nearly destroying his life to get there. Marcus packed the canvas back into the duffel bag and closed the closet door. In the darkness, surrounded by the ghosts of his father's accomplishments, 16-year-old Marcus Jordan whispered into the silence, "One day you'll understand why I can't be you, Dad. One day you'll see what it costs." The words felt like a prayer or a prophecy. He couldn't know then that both would come true. Disney Springs, Orlando, Florida. May 2016. Marcus Jordan stood outside the empty retail space, keys in hand, staring at the blank storefront that would become Trophy Room. At 25 years old, he was finally building something that belonged to him. Not his father's legacy, not basketball, his. The location was perfect. Disney Springs, the shopping and entertainment complex that drew millions of tourists annually. High foot traffic, wealthy clientele, and most importantly, 1,047 miles from Chicago. From the United Center, from the shadow of the Bulls dynasty. "You sure about this?" asked Terrence Mitchell, his business partner and college friend from the University of Central Florida. They'd met during Marcus's brief college basketball career, another failed attempt at living up to the Jordan name that had lasted exactly one season before Marcus transferred and eventually graduated without playing another game. "I'm sure," Marcus said, unlocking the door. The space smelled like fresh paint and possibility. Sneaker culture is exploding. Limited releases, collaborations, exclusive drops. People are paying thousands for the right pairs. And who has better access to exclusive Jordans than Michael Jordan's son? It was the truth, even if it tasted bitter. He was using his father's name, but at least he was doing it on his own terms, on building a business rather than failing at basketball. Trophy Room would be a boutique sneaker store specializing in rare Air Jordan releases, limited editions, exclusive colorways that sneakerheads would line up for days to purchase. The name itself was a careful calculation. Trophy Room referenced his father's trophy room in their Chicago home, the private space where Michael kept his 6 championship trophies, Olympic medals, and countless accolades. Marcus was selling access to that legacy without having to earn it himself. His father had given his blessing, even invested in the venture. "If you're going to use the name," Michael had told him during a call in March, "make it excellent. Half-assing things isn't an option." "I won't let you down," Marcus had promised. Over the next 6 months, Marcus poured himself into Trophy Room, and he designed the store's aesthetic: clean lines, premium materials, glass display cases like museum exhibits. He cultivated relationships with Nike executives, leveraging his last name for exclusive access. He built a social media presence, posting behind-the-scenes content of rare sneakers, his lifestyle, his vision. The grand opening in December 2016 was a spectacle. Lines wrapped around the building. Celebrities flew in. Michael himself appeared, cutting the ribbon, the cameras capturing every moment. Trophy Room sold $200,000 worth of merchandise in the first weekend. Marcus finally felt successful. Finally felt like he'd proven something. He just didn't realize success could be its own kind of prison. Los Angeles to California, November 2019. Marcus adjusted his Rolex, a 29th birthday gift to himself, and surveyed the party from the VIP section of a West Hollywood nightclub. Bass thumped through the floor. Beautiful people danced under strobing lights. Bottles of Clase Azul tequila lined the table, $400 each. Complimentary because he was Michael Jordan's son. Larsa Pippen sat beside him, her hand on his thigh. She was 45 to his 29, Scottie Pippen's ex-wife, and dating her felt like the ultimate rebellion. The media had gone insane when they'd started seeing each other earlier that year. The son of Michael Jordan dating the ex-wife of Scottie Pippen, his father's most famous teammate. The tabloids called it scandalous. Marcus called it finally being interesting for something other than his basketball failures. You okay?" Larsa leaned close, her voice barely audible over the music. "Yeah, just thinking about the New York opening." Trophy Room was expanding, a second location in Soho, scheduled to open in February 2020. Bigger space, bigger investment, bigger risk. "It's going to be amazing," she said, kissing his cheek. "Everything you touch turns to gold." Marcus smiled but didn't feel it. Trophy Room was successful, yes. His Instagram following had grown to 1.4 million. He was featured in sneaker magazines, appeared on podcasts, lived the life everyone saw from the outside. Private jets, exclusive parties, beautiful women, unlimited access. But the New York expansion was stretching him thin. He'd taken out personal loans, convinced investors to back him, promised returns he wasn't certain he could deliver. The business model was solid, but the market was becoming saturated. Competition from StockX, GOAT, and other resale platforms was cutting into his margins. And then there was his father. Michael called monthly, always with the same question: "How's business?" And Marcus always gave the same answer: "Great, Dad, really great." Because admitting struggle meant admitting failure, and Jordan's didn't fail. His phone buzzed, a text from Jeffrey. "Mom's asking about Thanksgiving. You coming to Chicago? Marcus typed back, can't. Store launch prep. Send everyone my love. Another lie. Trophy Room didn't need him in Orlando during Thanksgiving. He just couldn't face his family. Couldn't sit at a table and pretend everything was fine while his business partner kept sending worried emails about cash flow and inventory costs. Let's dance, Larsa said, to pulling him toward the floor. Marcus followed, vodka soda in hand, his third of the night, or maybe his fourth, and let the music drown out the anxiety. This was his life now. This was success. It had to be, because he'd burned every other bridge to get here. Orlando, Florida. June 2022. The deal fell apart on a Tuesday. Marcus sat in his trophy room office, staring at the email that had just cost him everything. A partnership with a major athletic retailer, a deal that would have put trophy room products in 500 stores nationwide, had been canceled. The retailer cited market conditions and strategic realignment. But Marcus knew the truth. They'd gone with a competitor who had better margins and less overhead. He'd invested $800,000 of his own money into inventory for the partnership. Exclusive designs, custom packaging, odd marketing materials, all of it now useless, sitting in a warehouse in New Jersey. His phone rang. The accountant. Marcus, we need to talk about the second quarter numbers. How bad? You're $1.2 million in the red. Between the New York location underperforming and this deal falling through, we need to make some serious changes or consider closing the Soho store. Marcus ended the call and put his head in his hands. 29 years old, and he'd finally found something he was good at. Building a brand, curating culture, creating a business. And now it was crumbling. He couldn't tell his father. Couldn't admit that even when he wasn't trying to be a basketball player, he still couldn't measure up. Michael Jordan's businesses thrived. The Hornets, Jordan Brand, his various investments. Everything the man touched turned to gold. Everything Marcus touched turned to debt. He opened his desk drawer and pulled out a bottle of Macallan 18. It was 2 p.m. He poured 3 fingers into a rocks glass and drank it in 2 swallows. The burn felt good, felt like the only thing that was real. Miami, Florida. January 2023. Larsa broke up with him over text. Marcus read the message at a sneaker convention in Miami, surrounded by people who wanted photos with him, wanted his connections, wanted access to the Jordan legacy. His phone screen blurred. This isn't working. You're not present. I need someone who's emotionally available. I'm sorry. 3 years together ended in 47 words. He excused himself from the convention floor and found the bathroom. In the mirror, he barely recognized himself. 32 years old, but looking older. Bags under his eyes. A weight loss making his face gaunt. The forced smile he'd perfected for Instagram nowhere to be found. His phone buzzed with notifications. The breakup was already public. TMZ had the story. Social media was exploding with opinions about his relationship, his life, him. Everyone had an opinion about Marcus Jordan. No one actually knew Marcus Jordan. He thought about calling his brother Jeffrey, thought about calling his mother, thought about calling his father, and finally admitting that he was drowning. Instead, he called Terrence. Meet me at Eliv, Marcus said. I need to blow off some steam. That night, Marcus drank until the room spun. He spent $15,000 at the club. Bottles for strangers, tips for servers, anything to feel like he was in control of something. He took photos with fans, smiled for Instagram stories, played the role of the successful entrepreneur, unbothered by a breakup. And when someone in the VIP section offered him a small bag of white powder, Marcus stared at it for a long moment. He thought about his father's voice. "Whatever you choose to do with your life, you do it all the way." He thought about the $1.2 million debt. He thought about Larsa's text message. He thought about being 16 years old, quitting basketball, hiding his art in a closet. He thought about spending his entire life being not quite good enough at being someone else. December 2024. Miami Beach. The first time Marcus tried cocaine, he convinced himself it was just for fun. Just one night. Just to see what all the fuss was about. Everyone in his circle did it. Tech entrepreneurs, club promoters, to the trust fund kids who bought limited edition sneakers like they were collecting stamps. The high was immediate. Confidence flooded his system. Suddenly, the debt didn't matter. Larsa didn't matter. His father's expectations didn't matter. For 4 hours, Marcus felt invincible. The crash came at dawn. He swore he wouldn't do it again. But the next weekend, someone offered. And the weekend after that. And then it wasn't just weekends. It was whenever the anxiety got too loud, whenever the voice in his head reminded him that he was 34 years old and still living in his father's shadow, still using his father's name to sell shoes, still pretending to be someone he wasn't. By December 2024, Marcus was using twice a week, then 3 times. Then, whenever he could justify it, which became easier and easier as Trophy Room's numbers continued to slide and the walls closed in. On December 20th, 2024, his business partner Terrence confronted him. "Marcus, I found you passed out in the office last night, after closing. What's going on?" "I was tired, working late on inventory." "You're using, aren't you?" "It's under control." "Is it? Because from where I'm standing, you're spiraling. The business is suffering. You're missing meetings. I'm worried about you, man." Marcus laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. "Worried about me, or worried about your investment?" "Both. Because I'm your friend first, and friends tell friends when they're fucking up." Marcus stood, grabbed his jacket. "I'm fine. Mind your business." He walked out, and he didn't return to the Trophy Room office for 3 weeks. On February 13th, 2025, one day before Valentine's Day, one day before the arrest, Marcus sat alone in his Miami apartment. It was 11 p.m. His phone showed 47 unread messages. His mother, Jeffrey, Terrence, his accountant, his lawyer about the second mortgage he'd taken on his condo. He ignored them all. Instead, he called a number he'd saved weeks ago. A treatment center in Malibu. He'd researched it during a rare moment of clarity, bookmarked the website, written down their intake coordinator's direct line. The phone rang 3 times. "Promises Treatment Center. This is Deborah." Marcus opened his mouth, closed it. The words stuck in his throat like broken glass. "Hello? Is anyone there?" "I need help," Marcus whispered. "Okay, that's good. That's really good. Can you tell me your name?" "Marcus. Marcus Jordan." "Marcus, I'm glad you called. Can you tell me what's going on?" And for the first time in his life, Marcus told the truth. All of it. The cocaine, the drinking, the debt, the depression that had haunted him since he was 16, the art he'd hidden, the life he'd performed, the suffocating weight of being someone's son instead of being someone. Deborah listened to everything. When he finished, she said, "Marcus, we have 1 bed available, but you'd need to be here by tomorrow morning for intake. Can you do that?" Tomorrow morning, February 14th, Valentine's Day. Marcus looked around his apartment. the expensive furniture he'd bought to impress people he didn't like, the awards for Entrepreneur of the Year from sneaker magazines, the framed photo of him and his father at the trophy room opening, both smiling for the camera, both performing their roles perfectly. Yes, Marcus said. I'll be there. He hung up and felt something he hadn't felt in years: hope. Then he made a decision that would change everything. He would go to Miami Beach one last time, one last night, just to say goodbye to the life he'd been living. He'd have a few drinks, celebrate the decision to get help, then catch the early morning flight to Los Angeles. Just a few drinks, just one last night. Marcus Jordan grabbed his keys, walked to his Mercedes G-Wagon in the parking garage, and drove toward Miami Beach, toward the clubs where everyone knew his name, toward the life he'd built on sand. He couldn't know that in 6 hours he'd be in handcuffs. He couldn't know that rock bottom was still ahead of him. He couldn't know that sometimes the only way to save yourself is to lose everything first. Miami Beach, Florida, February 14th, 2025, 12:47 a.m. The bass line from the club's sound system vibrated through Marcus's chest as he stepped past the velvet rope. The bouncer, a mountain of a man named Rico, nodded him through without checking ID. Everyone knew Marcus Jordan at Euphoria nightclub. Mr. Jordan, your usual table? The hostess, barely 21 with platinum blonde hair, smiled with practiced enthusiasm. Yeah, thanks. Marcus followed her through the crowd, past bodies moving in rhythm, past the fog machines and laser lights cutting through the darkness. His usual table was in the VIP section, elevated above the main floor with a view of everything and everyone. The bottle service arrived immediately. 2 bottles of Classy Azul tequila, mixers, fresh lime wedges arranged artistically on ice. Marcus hadn't ordered. They just knew. "So, compliments of management," the server said. "They heard you're celebrating something?" Marcus forced a smile. Celebrating. Sure, call it that. He was celebrating finally admitting he needed help. Celebrating that in 8 hours, he'd be on a plane to California. Celebrating the end of this version of himself. "Yeah," he said, tipping her $200. "Something like that." He poured 3 fingers of tequila into a rocks glass, no mixer, and downed it. The burn was familiar, comforting. Liquid courage, liquid numbness, liquid escape from the voice in his head that never stopped whispering, "You're not enough. You've never been enough." His phone buzzed. A text from Jeffrey. "Happy Valentine's Day, bro. You good? Haven't heard from you in a minute." Marcus stared at the message. Jeffrey was in Charlotte now, and working in the Hornets front office under their father's mentorship. Jeffrey had always been good at being a Jordan, understood the business, understood basketball, understood how to navigate their father's expectations. Marcus typed, "All good, just busy. Love you, man." Another lie. They came so easily now. "Marcus!" A voice cut through the music. Travis Chen, a tech entrepreneur Marcus had met at a sneaker convention last year, approached with his entourage. "Didn't know you'd be here tonight." "Last-minute decision," Marcus said, standing to exchange elaborate handshakes and half-hugs with Travis and his friends. "Yo, we're heading to an after-party at a penthouse in Brickell around 3, Travis said, his pupils slightly dilated. "You should come through. It's gonna be wild." Marcus should say no. He should stick to his plan. A few drinks, then home, then the airport. But the tequila was already warming his bloodstream, and the club was filling up, and the loneliness was a physical ache in his chest. "Maybe," Marcus said. "Let me see how the night goes." Travis and his crew moved on. Marcus poured another drink. 1:47 a.m. The club was packed now, Valentine's Day bringing out couples and singles alike. Marcus had moved through 3 different groups, taking photos, buying bottles, playing the role everyone expected. His Instagram story was a carefully curated highlight reel. Him laughing with friends, champagne bottles with sparklers, the glamorous life of Michael Jordan's son. Behind the phone, his hands were shaking. He'd consumed half a bottle of tequila and switched to vodka sodas. The world had that pleasant blur around the edges. Our reality softened just enough to be tolerable. A woman approached, tall, beautiful, dressed in designer everything. "You're Marcus Jordan, right?" "Guilty," he said, the word choice unfortunate given what was coming in less than 2 hours. "I love Trophy Room. I bought those exclusive red and black ones last year." "Thanks. That's awesome." He was on autopilot now, his public persona running the conversation while his real self screamed underneath, "I need to leave. I need to go home. I need to get on that plane." "Can I buy you a drink?" she asked. Marcus gestured to his table full of bottles. "I think I'm covered, but you're welcome to join me." She did. Then her friends joined. Then their friends. Soon the table was crowded with people Marcus didn't know, all of them drinking his alcohol, taking photos with him, and performing friendship for their social media feeds. Nobody asked how he was doing. Nobody noticed the desperation behind his smile. 2:23 a.m. Travis returned, pulling Marcus aside. "Yo, bathroom, now!" Marcus followed, knowing what was coming, his heart rate accelerating with anticipation and dread. In the bathroom, glossy black tile, LED lighting, bass penetrating even here, Travis pulled out a small bag of white powder from his jacket pocket. "Valentine's gift," Travis said, grinning. "Pure as it gets." Marcus stared at the bag, thought about Deborah from the treatment center, thought about the plane ticket on his phone for the 10 a.m. flight to Los Angeles, thought about his father's voice. "Whatever you choose to do with your life, you do it all the way." "I shouldn't," Marcus said. "Come on, man. One last hurrah before the week starts. And when's the last time you actually let loose?" Every night for the past 3 months, Marcus thought, but didn't say. Travis opened the bag, poured a line on the marble counter. "Your call, but this is premium. And the after party is going to be insane. You want to be sharp for that." Sharp. That was the irony. Cocaine made Marcus feel sharp, focused, confident. All the things he spent his entire life trying to fake while sober. On cocaine, he became the person everyone expected Marcus Jordan to be. He thought about saying no. Thought about walking out of the bathroom, out of the club, back to his apartment, to safety, to the life he'd promised Deborah he'd start tomorrow. Instead, Marcus leaned down. The high hit immediately. Clarity flooded his system. Artificial, chemical, devastating clarity. Suddenly, the anxiety evaporated. Yet the shame quieted. The weight of being Michael Jordan's son lifted just enough to breathe. "There we go!" Travis clapped him on the back. "Now you're ready for the night." They returned to the VIP section. Marcus felt invincible. He ordered more drinks. He danced. He laughed too loud at jokes that weren't funny. He took photos and videos, documenting the performance of a man having the time of his life. At 2:47 a.m., someone handed him another drink, vodka soda, his 5th or 8th or 10th, he'd lost count. He drank it in 3 long swallows. 3 a.m. "Let's go to that after party," Marcus announced, his words slightly slurred, but his mind feeling razor-sharp from the cocaine. "Who's coming?" A chorus of agreement. Marcus paid his tab, $4,200 for the night, and led his temporary friends toward the exit. The February air hit him like a slap. And Miami nights were cool this time of year, low 70s, but Marcus felt overheated. Sweat dampened his Balmain shirt. His heart raced. Whether from the cocaine or anxiety or both, he couldn't tell. "I'll drive," he said, pulling his keys from his pocket. "You sure, man?" Travis asked. "You've been drinking a lot." "I'm fine. I'm always fine." The lie felt true when he said it. Everything felt true on cocaine. Marcus walked to his Mercedes G-Wagon, the silver paint gleaming under the streetlights. He'd bought it cash 6 months ago when Trophy Room had a good quarter. The payments now stretched his dwindling finances, but it looked successful. That's what mattered. He climbed into the driver's seat, the leather cool against his back. Travis got in the passenger side. 2 others piled in back. Marcus should call an Uber. He should let someone else drive. Should do 1,000 things differently than what he was about to do. Instead, he started the engine. His phone buzzed, a text from his mother, Juanita. "Happy Valentine's Day, sweetheart. Haven't heard from you in a while. Call me when you can. I love you." Marcus stared at the message, guilt flooding through even the chemical haze. His mother, who had protected him during the divorce, who had never pressured him to be anyone but himself, who would be devastated when she found out what her baby boy had become. He typed, "Love you too, Mom. We'll call soon." Another lie. The last lie he'd tell before everything changed. Marcus pulled out of the parking spot, tires squealing slightly. Travis laughed. Someone in the back turned up the music, hip-hop bass rattling the windows. "Yo, take I-95, Travis said. Faster this time of night." Marcus accelerated, the G-Wagon responding immediately. $80,000 of German engineering carrying a disaster toward its inevitable conclusion. He merged onto I-95 North, the highway relatively empty at 3:10 a.m. on a Friday morning. Miami's skyline glowed in the rearview mirror. Ahead, Brickell's towers sparkled with lights from people still awake, still living, still making choices that wouldn't destroy them. Marcus pressed the accelerator. 60 miles per hour, 70, 85, 95. The cocaine told him he was in complete control. The vodka told him he was invincible. Reality, the truth Marcus had spent his entire life running from, waited ahead in flashing blue and red lights. "Dude, slow down," Travis said, gripping the door handle. But Marcus couldn't slow down. He hadn't been able to slow down since he was 16 years old and decided to hide who he really was. The speed felt like freedom, felt like finally outrunning the shadow that had chased him his entire life. Somewhere in Jupiter, Florida, Michael Jordan slept peacefully, unaware that his youngest son was about to shatter both their worlds. Somewhere in Los Angeles, a treatment center bed sat empty, waiting for a patient who would never arrive for his scheduled intake. Somewhere inside Marcus Jordan's chest, beneath the cocaine and alcohol and bravado, a 34-year-old man whispered to himself, "Please, God, make it stop. Please let something make it stop." God answered, just not the way Marcus expected. At 3:14 a.m., blue and red lights appeared in his rearview mirror. Marcus's hands, gripping the steering wheel at 95 miles per hour, began to shake. The chase and the reckoning had begun. I-95 North, near Aventura, Florida. February 14th, 2025, 3:14 a.m. Marcus's eyes locked on the rearview mirror. Blue and red lights strobed through the darkness, reflecting off the chrome of his Mercedes. His pulse hammered against his ribs, the cocaine amplifying every sensation, turning fear into panic. "Shit, shit, shit," Travis muttered from the passenger seat. Pull over, man. Marcus's foot hovered over the accelerator. For one insane moment, he considered running. Just pressing down, pushing the G-Wagon to its limit, outrunning the consequences like he'd been doing his entire life. Then reality crashed through the chemical fog. You can't outrun this. He eased off the gas, signaling right, pulling onto the shoulder of I-95. The highway was elevated here, Miami's lights spreading below like a circuit board. The police cruiser, a Florida Highway Patrol Dodge Charger, pulled in behind him, spotlight flooding Marcus's interior. "Just be cool," Travis said. "You've had a few drinks, but you're Michael Jordan's son. They'll probably just shut up." Marcus's hands gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white. His mind raced through the evidence. The vodka on his breath, the cocaine residue in his nostrils, the small bag in his center console that he'd forgotten about. Left over from 3 days ago. Stupid. So stupid. In the back seat, one of Travis's friends, Marcus couldn't even remember his name, was frantically checking his pockets. "I'm clean. Thank God I'm clean." The driver's side door of the patrol car opened. Officer Maria Rodriguez stepped out, so 38 years old, 12 years on the force, and completely unimpressed by celebrity. She'd pulled over professional athletes before. They bled just like everyone else when they crashed at high speeds. She approached the driver's window, flashlight in hand, her other hand resting casually on her service weapon. Training and instinct. Marcus fumbled for the window button, his coordination off. The window descended with a smooth electric hum. "License and registration, please." Officer Rodriguez's flashlight swept the interior. 4 occupants, male, 20s and 30s, expensive clothes, the smell of alcohol immediate and overwhelming. The driver's eyes were bloodshot, pupils dilated even in the harsh LED beam. "Officer, Marcus's voice cracked. He cleared his throat, trying for the confident tone that usually got him through situations. "I'm sorry, was I speeding?" "License and registration," Rodriguez repeated, her tone professional, neutral, brooking no negotiation. Marcus reached for the glove compartment, his movements exaggerated and clumsy. His fingers scattered papers, insurance documents, old receipts, a trophy room business card. Finally, he found the registration. His wallet was in his pocket. He pulled it out, hands shaking noticeably now, and extracted his driver's license. Marcus James Jordan, DOB, December 24th, 1990. The photo showed him smiling, confident, taken 3 years ago when the world still made sense. He handed both to Officer Rodriguez. She examined the license with her flashlight. "Mr. Jordan, do you know how fast you were going?" I may be a little over the limit?" 95 in a 65 zone. You were also weaving between lanes." She paused, her eyes meeting his. "Have you been drinking tonight?" The question hung in the air. Marcus's lawyer, retained after a minor issue 2 years ago, had drilled one thing into his head: never admit to anything. But the vodka and cocaine made his mouth run ahead of his brain. "Just a couple drinks, officer. I'm fine to drive. I'm Michael Jordan's son. I'm Marcus Jordan." Rodriguez's expression didn't change. She'd heard every variation of, "Do you know who I am?" in her career. "Mr. Jordan, I need you to step out of the vehicle, please." "Is that really necessary?" Step out of the vehicle, now." Marcus's stomach dropped. This wasn't going away. And this wasn't going to be smoothed over with a name or a smile or a donation to the Police Benevolent Fund. This was real. He opened the door, nearly stumbling as he stepped onto the shoulder. Semi-trucks roared past, their wind buffeting him. The world tilted slightly. Too much alcohol, too much cocaine, too much of everything catching up all at once. "I'm going to conduct some field sobriety tests," Rodriguez said, positioning him away from traffic. "Do you have any injuries or medical conditions that would prevent you from performing these tests?" "No, ma'am." "Have you taken any drugs or medications tonight?" The moment of truth. Marcus's mouth went dry. "No." The lie felt like swallowing glass. "Okay. I want you to follow my finger with your eyes without moving your head." Rodriguez moved her finger left and right, up and down. Marcus tried to focus, but his eyes jerked involuntarily. Horizontal gaze nystagmus, the technical term caused by alcohol and central nervous system depressants. Rodriguez noted it mentally. "Now I want you to walk a straight line, heel to toe, 9 steps forward, turn, and 9 steps back. Keep your arms at your sides." Marcus looked down at the white line painted on the shoulder. It seemed to waver under the streetlights. He took a step, his foot landing several inches off the line. Another step, wobbling. By the 4th step, he'd given up any pretense of walking straight, his arms flying out for balance. "Stop," Rodriguez said. "You can come back." Humiliation burned through Marcus's chest. 34 years old, reduced to failing tests designed for drunk drivers. This wasn't who he was. Except it was, and this was exactly who he'd become. "Mr. Jordan, I'm going to ask you to take a breathalyzer test." Marcus's lawyer's voice echoed in his memory. "If you're really drunk, refuse the breathalyzer. Take the automatic license suspension. Better than giving them proof." I refuse the test." Rodriguez nodded, unsurprised. "That's your right. But I'm informing you that refusing the breathalyzer results in an automatic 1-year license suspension in Florida. Do you understand?" "Yes." "Based on my observations, your erratic driving, your performance on the field sobriety tests, the smell of alcohol, and your bloodshot eyes, I have probable cause to search your vehicle. Do I have your consent?" Marcus wanted to say no, wanted to demand a warrant. But his brain was too slow, too compromised. And part of him, the part that had been drowning for months, just wanted it to end. "Sure, whatever. There's nothing in there." Even as he said it, he remembered. The bag, center console, under the receipts and napkins, and the detritus of a life falling apart. Rodriguez returned to the G-Wagon. Travis and the others had been moved to the side of the road by a second officer who'd arrived as backup. Officer James Patterson, 26, 3 years on the force, watching everything with the careful attention of someone still building his career. Rodriguez searched methodically. Glove compartment, door pockets, under the seats. When she reached the center console, Marcus's heart stopped. She lifted out receipts, napkins, a trophy room promotional flyer. Then her flashlight caught it. A small Ziploc bag, maybe an inch square. White residue visible even from 15 feet away. Rodriguez held it up. "Mr. Jordan, is this yours?" Time seemed to stop. The highway noise faded. Marcus saw his entire life branching into 2 paths. Lie and maybe get away with it. Or tell the truth and face everything he'd been running from. He was so tired of running. "Yes," Marcus whispered. "What is it?" "Cocaine. It's cocaine." Rodriguez's face remained professionally neutral, but something flickered in her eyes. Not judgment exactly, more like resignation. Another rich kid, another drug charge, another night on I-95. "Mr. Jordan, turn around and place your hands behind your back." The handcuffs were cold against Marcus's wrists. The clicking sound, ratcheting metal, seemed impossibly loud. He'd never been arrested before. Never even been in serious trouble beyond traffic tickets, and that one bar fight that got settled quietly. Marcus James Jordan, you're under arrest for driving under the influence and possession of a controlled substance. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to an attorney. Rodriguez continued the Miranda rights, but Marcus barely heard them. He was focused on the reality sinking through his consciousness like ice water. His father would know. The world would know. Everyone would see Marcus Jordan, not as the successful entrepreneur or the artist or even the addict struggling for help, but as the failure who couldn't even drive home without getting arrested. Travis and his friends were released. They weren't driving. I hadn't done anything illegal in Rodriguez's presence. They stood awkwardly by the roadside as Marcus was led to the patrol car. "Yo, Marcus, we'll call your lawyer," Travis called out, his voice uncertain. "We'll figure this out." Marcus didn't respond. Couldn't respond. The enormity of what was happening had finally broken through the chemical haze. Rodriguez opened the back door of the Charger. Marcus had to duck, handcuffed hands making it awkward. The back seat was hard plastic, designed to be hosed down, separated from the front by a cage of thick metal mesh. As Rodriguez walked back to the G-Wagon to complete her inventory, Marcus sat alone in the cage. Through the mesh, through the windshield, he could see Miami's skyline. Somewhere in that sprawl of lights was his apartment, his life, the future he'd imagined just hours ago when he called the treatment center. His phone was in his pocket, vibrating. He couldn't reach it with his hands cuffed behind him. Probably his mother, or Jeffrey, or someone wondering where he was. The vibrating stopped, started again. Officer Patterson slid into the driver's seat, not looking back at Marcus. The engine started. The radio crackled with dispatch codes Marcus didn't understand. They pulled back onto I-95, driving south now toward Turner-Guilford Night Correctional Center. The same highway Marcus had just driven at 95 miles per hour, convinced he was invincible. The irony would have been funny if it didn't hurt so much. Marcus leaned his head against the window, the glass cool against his feverish skin. The cocaine was wearing off, leaving behind a crushing depression that settled over him like a weighted blanket. His mouth tasted like chemicals and regret. "Officer?" His voice was small, childlike. "Yes?" Patterson responded, eyes on the road. "I need to call my father, before you book me, before this goes public. I need to tell him something. Please." Patterson glanced in the rearview mirror. "You'll get your phone call at booking." "No, you don't understand. I need to tell him why. He needs to know why I did this. It's not what everyone will think. There's something I have to tell him. Something I should have told him 20 years ago." Patterson said nothing, but Rodriguez, who'd been following in a tow truck with the G-Wagon, radioed ahead. Something about the desperation in Marcus's voice, the complete dissolution of his public persona, moved her to compassion. When they arrived at the correctional center at 3:47 a.m., Rodriguez made an unusual decision. Before beginning the booking process, before the mugshot and fingerprints and processing that would make this official and permanent, she let Marcus make one call. Not his phone call, the one every arrestee gets after booking, but a different call. A grace she wasn't required to give. She pulled out her personal cell phone and dialed the number Marcus recited from memory. His father's private line, the one only family had. The one that connected directly to Michael Jordan no matter where in the world he was. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. Marcus stood in the intake area, still handcuffed, Officer Rodriguez holding her phone to his ear. He was crying now, tears streaming down his face, all pretense gone. "And hello?" Michael's voice was thick with sleep and confusion. "Dad?" Marcus's voice broke completely. "Dad, it's Marcus." "Marcus, what's wrong? Where are you?" "I'm in jail, Dad. I got arrested. DUI and cocaine possession. I'm so sorry. I've destroyed everything you built. The name, the legacy. Son, slow down. Are you hurt? Are you okay?" The question, the fact that his father's first concern was his safety, not the embarrassment or the headlines, broke something fundamental in Marcus's chest. "No, Dad, I'm not okay. I haven't been okay for a long time. But I need you to know something. Before they book me, before this is everywhere, I need you to understand. I wasn't just partying tonight. I was trying to get help. I called a treatment center. I had a plane ticket to go to rehab this morning. But I'm an addict, Dad, and I have a disease. And there's more." He took a shuddering breath. "There's something I hid in Chicago in 2018. Something I need you to see. When I get out, I need you to come with me. There's a gallery in Wicker Park. There's something there that will explain everything. Why I quit basketball. Why I've been struggling. Why I've always felt like I'm living in the wrong life." Michael's voice was steady, controlled, the same voice that called plays in the finals. "What are you talking about? What did you hide?" "I can't tell you over the phone, but I need you to promise me something. Promise me that when I get out, you'll come with me. You'll see what I've been hiding. And then, maybe you'll understand why I am the way I am." Silence stretched across the phone line. Then Michael spoke, and his voice carried something Marcus had rarely heard from his father. Vulnerability. "Marcus, I promise, whatever it is, wherever you need me to go, I'll be there. I'm getting on a plane right now. I'll be at that facility in 2 hours. Do you hear me? You're my son. Nothing changes that." "I love you, Dad." "I love you too, Marcus." Rodriguez gently took the phone away. Marcus nodded to her. "Thank you." The only thing he could manage through the tears. As they led him deeper into the correctional center, toward booking and processing and the machinery of justice, Marcus felt something unexpected. Relief. The secret was out. The performance was over. For the first time in 20 years, Marcus Jordan didn't have to pretend to be anyone but himself. Broken, addicted, desperate, and finally ready to tell the truth. Even if the truth destroyed him, even if it destroyed everything, at least it would be real. Jupiter, Florida, February 14th, 2025, 4:15 a.m. Michael Jordan stood in his closet, pulling on jeans and a black sweater, his hands moving on autopilot while his mind raced. Yvette sat on the edge of their bed, already dressed, her face etched with concern. "Should I come with you?" she asked. "No, stay here. I'll call you when I know more." Michael grabbed his wallet, his phone, his keys. "I need to handle this." He kissed her forehead and headed downstairs, his bare feet silent on the marble floors of the mansion he'd built with basketball money. Championship trophies lined the hallway, 6 of them, bronze and gleaming under recessed lighting. The Larry O'Brien trophies that represented everything he'd accomplished. None of it mattered right now. See, in his home office, Michael opened his desk drawer and pulled out a business card. Daniel Petruccelli, his personal attorney based in Los Angeles. He checked his watch. 4:17 a.m. Eastern, 1:17 a.m. Pacific. Daniel would be asleep, but this couldn't wait. The phone rang 4 times before a groggy voice answered. "Michael, what's wrong?" "It's Marcus. He's been arrested in Miami. DUI and cocaine possession." The line went silent for 3 seconds. Daniel processing, attorney brain switching on despite the hour. Okay. First, is he safe? Any injuries? He's physically fine, emotionally. Michael's voice trailed off. He's not fine, Daniel. He told me he's an addict. He needs treatment. All right, here's what we do immediately. I'll call my Florida contact, Amanda Chen, best criminal defense attorney in Miami. She'll meet you at Turner Guilford Night within 2 hours. Don't let Marcus talk to anyone without her present. No statements, no interviews, nothing. Already done. He only called me. Good. Michael, I need you to understand something. Daniel's voice turned serious. This is going to be public within hours. TMZ probably already has a source at the jail. We need to control the narrative before it controls us. I don't care about the narrative. I care about my son. I know. But the narrative affects his case, his sentencing, his future. We need a statement ready. Something that acknowledges the situation but frames it around getting help. The court system looks favorably on defendants who take immediate responsibility and seek treatment. Michael walked to the window overlooking his property. Perfectly manicured lawns. A basketball court where he still shot hoops most mornings. A life built on discipline and control. Everything Marcus's life wasn't. Draft something, Michael said, but I'm not throwing Marcus under the bus to save face. Whatever statement we release, it's honest. He's struggling. He needs help. That's the truth. Understood. I'll have something within the hour. Michael, for what it's worth, you're doing the right thing. A lot of fathers in your position would distance themselves, protect the brand. You're showing up for your son. That matters. Michael ended the call and immediately dialed his pilot. Frank, I need the plane ready in 30 minutes, flying to Miami. Yes, sir. I'll have her fueled and ready. Next call, Juanita, Marcus's mother. His ex-wife, but still the mother of his children, and still someone he trusted implicitly with family matters. She answered on the first ring, her voice alert. Michael, it's 4 in the morning. What happened? It's Marcus. And then Michael did something he rarely did. His voice cracked. Juanita, our baby's in jail. He told her everything. The arrest, the cocaine, the phone call. Marcus's confession about being an addict, about hiding something in Chicago, about needing help. Juanita cried quietly on the other end. When she spoke, her voice was thick with pain. I knew something was wrong. I've been calling him for weeks, and he kept saying he was fine. I should have pushed harder. I should have. This isn't on you. This isn't on either of us. Marcus is an adult who made choices, but he's also sick. He has a disease, and we're going to help him beat it. I'm flying to Miami today. Let me get there first, see what we're dealing with. I'll call you from the jail. We'll figure this out together. After hanging up, Michael sat in his home office, surrounded by the artifacts of his legendary career. Photos with presidents, Olympic gold medals, newspaper clippings from championship wins, a signed basketball from his final game in 2003. All of it felt meaningless. His youngest son was sitting in a jail cell, and Michael had missed it. Missed the signs, missed the struggle. Been so focused on building businesses and protecting the Jordan brand that he'd failed to see Marcus drowning. Whatever you choose to do with your life, you do it all the way. His own words, spoken to Marcus years ago. Had he pushed too hard? Expected too much? It created a standard so impossibly high that Marcus felt he had no choice but to numb himself into oblivion? Michael's phone buzzed. A text from Jeffrey. Dad, I just saw it on Twitter. TMZ posted. Is Marcus okay? So it was already public. Less than an hour after the arrest, and the world knew. Michael opened Twitter against his better judgment. The headline was everywhere. Breaking: Marcus Jordan, son of NBA legend Michael Jordan, arrested in Miami on DUI and cocaine charges. The comments section was a cesspool. Apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Rich kids always getting away with everything. MJ must be so disappointed. This is what happens when you give kids everything. Mixed in were occasional supportive voices. Addiction is a disease. Hope he gets help. Praying for the Jordan family. Everyone struggles. Don't judge. But the negative voices were louder, crueler, more viral. Michael closed the app. He couldn't control what people said, could only control what he did next. 5:30 a.m. Private jet to Miami. Michael sat in the leather seat of his Gulfstream G650, the same plane that had carried him to speaking engagements, business meetings, vacations with family. The flight from Jupiter to Miami was only 30 minutes, barely enough time for the plane to reach cruising altitude. Yvette had insisted on coming at the last minute. She sat across from him now, holding his hand. "You're a good father," she said quietly. "Am I?" A good father would have seen this coming. "Michael, you can't control everything. Not even Marcus. He's been hiding this from everyone. He said there's something in Chicago he needs to show me. Something he's been hiding since 2018. What if it's been there all along? Whatever's breaking him, and I was too busy to notice." Yvette squeezed his hand. "Then you notice now. You show up now. That's all you can do." Through the plane's window, dawn was breaking over the Atlantic. Pink and orange light painted the clouds. A new day, the first day of whatever came next. Michael's phone rang. Daniel Petrocelli. "Amanda Chen is en route to the jail. She'll be there before Marcus is processed. I've also drafted a statement. I'm emailing it now. Read it, make changes. But Michael, we need to release something within the next 2 hours before the media narrative runs wild." Michael opened his email, reading the statement on his phone. "My son Marcus is facing serious charges and serious personal challenges. As his father, my first priority is his health and well-being. We are seeking the best treatment and counseling available. As a family, we ask for privacy during this difficult time. I love my son unconditionally and will stand by him as he takes responsibility for his actions and works toward recovery." It was measured, careful, hitting all the right notes without admitting guilt or oversharing details. "Send it," Michael said, "but add one more line at the end. I'm proud of Marcus for asking for help. That takes more courage than most people will ever understand." "Michael, are you sure? That could be interpreted." "I don't care how it's interpreted. It's true. Send it." 6:45 a.m. Turner Guilford Knight Correctional Center. The Correctional Center was a sprawling complex of concrete and razor wire on the northwest edge of Miami. See, Michael's car pulled into the visitor parking lot, and immediately he was swarmed. Paparazzi had beaten him there. Cameras flashed. Questions were shouted. "Michael, how do you feel about Marcus's arrest? Did you know he was using drugs? Will this affect the Jordan brand? Are you disappointed in your son?" Michael kept his head down, Yvette beside him, a hired security guard clearing a path. He said nothing. Would say nothing. His statement would speak for itself. Inside, the facility smelled like industrial cleaner and human desperation. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead. A corrections officer at the front desk looked up, recognized Michael immediately, and her professional demeanor cracked slightly. "Mr. Jordan, we've been expecting you. Ms. Chen is already here." "Oh, she's in consultation room 3. Michael was led through security, metal detector, bag check, visitor's badge. Everything was procedure, bureaucracy, the machinery of the justice system grinding forward regardless of who you were. Amanda Chen met him in a small consultation room, early 40s, sharp eyes, carrying a leather briefcase. She extended her hand. "Mr. Jordan, I'm Amanda Chen. Daniel Petrocelli has briefed me on the situation. First, let me say, your son has been cooperative, respectful, and has not made any statements beyond what he told you on the phone. That's good. How is he?" "Physically fine. Emotionally struggling. The cocaine and alcohol are wearing off, which means he's likely experiencing withdrawal symptoms and severe depression. But he's safe. And he's in a holding cell away from general population given the high-profile nature of the case. When can I see him?" "Soon. But first, we need to discuss strategy. Marcus will be arraigned later this morning, probably around 10 a.m. The charges are serious, but not uncommon. For a first-time offender willing to enter treatment, we can likely negotiate a plea deal that avoids jail time, probation, treatment, community service, fines. But Marcus has to comply. Complete treatment, stay clean. One violation, and the deal is off. Michael processed this. He'll comply. I'll make sure of it. Mr. Jordan, with respect, you can't make sure of it. Marcus has to want recovery for himself. You can support him, but you can't control him. And the court will be watching. They don't care whose son he is. In fact, given your prominence, for they may be harder on him to prove they're not showing favoritism. The words stung because they were true. For once in his life, Michael Jordan's name and influence might hurt rather than help. I understand. Can I see him now? Amanda nodded and spoke to a corrections officer. 5 minutes later, Michael was led to a visitation room, a small space with a metal table bolted to the floor, plastic chairs, a one-way mirror on the wall. The door opened and Marcus shuffled in. Michael barely recognized his son. Marcus wore an orange jail jumpsuit, 3 sizes too big. His hands were cuffed in front of him. His face was haggard, gray, his eyes red and swollen from crying. He'd lost weight. Michael could see it now, the way the jumpsuit hung on his frame. How had he missed this? The corrections officer removed the cuffs and left. He's standing outside the door. Father and son sat across from each other, a metal table between them that felt like an ocean. Dad, I'm so sorry. Marcus's voice was barely a whisper. I've destroyed everything you built. The name, the legacy. Michael cut him off, his voice firmer than he intended, but softened by the tears forming in his eyes. I don't care about that. Marcus looked up, confused. I don't care about the headlines or the brand or what people think, Michael continued, his voice cracking now. I care about you. What's happening to you? Talk to me. And Marcus broke. Completely, utterly broke. 20 years of holding everything in, of performing strength, of hiding behind the smile and the business and the party photos. It all shattered in that moment. Through tears, Marcus told his father everything. The pressure of being Michael Jordan's son, the way basketball felt like dying, the secret art he'd been creating since he was 14, the depression that had haunted him since high school, the cocaine that started as relief and became a prison, the call to the treatment center, the decision to get help that had turned into one last night that spiraled into disaster. I was driving to the airport, Dad. I had a plane ticket to go to rehab this morning. But I got drunk and high first because I was terrified. Terrified of admitting I need help. Terrified of disappointing you. And I made the stupidest decision of my life. Michael reached across the table, taking Marcus's hands in his own. His son's hands were shaking, cold, smaller than he remembered. "You're not disappointing me, Marcus. You're breaking my heart. But not because you're an addict, because you've been suffering in silence for 20 years and felt like you couldn't tell me. Because you're Michael Jordan, Dad. You're the man who played Game 5 of the finals with the flu. You're the person who never quit, never showed weakness. How do I tell you that I'm weak?" "You're not weak." Michael's grip tightened. "Do you know what's weak? Weak is pretending everything's fine when you're dying inside. Weak is numbing yourself instead of facing the truth. What you did last night, calling that treatment center, admitting you need help, telling me everything right now, that's not weakness. That's courage." Marcus cried harder, years of pain pouring out in that sterile visitation room. "There's something else," Marcus said between sobs. "Something I need to show you. In Chicago. We're in a gallery in Wicker Park. I've been hiding who I really am for so long, Dad. And I'm so tired. I'm so tired of pretending." Michael stood, walked around the table, and pulled Marcus into a tight embrace. The kind of hug that communicates everything words can't. He felt his son's body shaking against his chest, felt the sharp edges of Marcus's ribs through the jumpsuit, felt the full weight of his failure as a father to see this coming. "Then we stop pretending," Michael said into Marcus's hair. "Starting right now. No more hiding. No more performing. You tell me who you are, and I promise, Marcus, I will love you. Not despite who you are, but because of it." They stood there together, father and son, in a Miami jail at dawn, beginning the long, painful process of actually knowing each other for the first time in 20 years. When they finally pulled apart, Michael wiped his eyes and made another promise. "Whatever's in Chicago, we'll face it together. But first, we get you into treatment. Real treatment. And I'll be there every step of the way. Understand?" Marcus nodded. "I'm scared." "I know. But you're also brave. It takes more courage to do this than anything I ever did on a basketball court." A knock on the door. Amanda Chen's voice. "Michael, they're starting the arraignment process. We need to prepare." Michael turned back to Marcus. "I have to go, but I'll be in the courtroom. I'll be right there. And when you get out, we're going to Chicago. You're going to show me what you've been hiding. And then we're going to figure out how to move forward. Together." "Thank you, Dad." "I love you, son. I'll never forget that." "I love you too." Michael walked out of the visitation room, his heart breaking and healing simultaneously. In the hallway, Amanda briefed him on the arraignment process, but he barely heard her. His mind was in two places: the courtroom where his son would face a judge in 4 hours, and a gallery in Chicago where apparently Marcus's true self waited to be discovered. Whatever happened next, one thing was certain. Michael Jordan's greatest challenge wasn't on a basketball court. It was learning to be the father Marcus needed, not the father he'd thought he should be. And for the first time in his life, Michael Jordan was walking into a game he didn't know how to win. Miami-Dade County Courthouse, February 15th, 2025, 10:17 a.m. The courthouse steps were a circus. News vans lined the street. Satellite dishes pointed skyward. Reporters jockeyed for position behind metal barricades. Cameras trained on every entrance. A helicopter circled overhead. Probably TMZ, Michael thought darkly. He sat in the back of a black SUV with tinted windows, watching the chaos through the glass. Beside him, Amanda Chen reviewed documents on her tablet. "There's a back entrance," she said. "We can avoid most of this." "No," Michael's voice was firm. We go through the front. Marcus doesn't get to hide from this, and neither do I." Amanda nodded, understanding. This was about more than optics. This was about accountability. The SUV door opened. Security flanked Michael immediately as he stepped onto the sidewalk. The roar was instantaneous. "Michael, is Marcus getting special treatment? Will you pay for his legal fees? Do you blame yourself? Is this the end of the Jordan brand?" Michael kept his eyes forward, his face neutral, the same expression he wore when opponents tried to get in his head. Don't react. Don't engage. Just move forward. Inside the courthouse, the atmosphere shifted from chaos to cold efficiency. Metal detectors, security checkpoints. The marble floors echoed with footsteps and whispered conversations. People recognized him instantly. Court officers, lawyers, defendants waiting for their own hearings. Some stared. Some looked away, uncomfortable with witnessing a legend in such human circumstances. Courtroom 4B was smaller than Michael expected. Wooden benches, fluorescent lighting, the seal of Florida mounted behind the judge's bench. He took a seat in the front row, Yvette beside him, Jeffrey having flown in overnight and sitting on his other side. "You okay, Dad?" Jeffrey asked quietly. "No, but I will be." At 10:30 a.m., a side door opened. Marcus shuffled in, still in the orange jumpsuit, hands cuffed in front of him. His eyes found Michael immediately. Father and son locked gazes, Michael trying to transmit strength, support, love across the courtroom. Marcus nodded slightly, acknowledging the message. The bailiff called the room to order. "All rise, the Honorable Judge Patricia Williams presiding." Judge Williams entered, a black woman in her late 50s, gray hair pulled back in a tight bun, reading glasses perched on her nose, carrying herself with the authority of someone who'd seen every variation of human weakness in her courtroom. She took her seat. I reviewed the file in front of her and looked up at Marcus. "Mr. Jordan, you're charged with driving under the influence and possession of a controlled substance, specifically cocaine. How do you plead?" Amanda stood. "Your Honor, my client pleads not guilty at this time. We request reasonable bail, and note that Mr. Jordan has no prior criminal record, strong ties to the community, and is not a flight risk." The prosecutor, a thin man in his 30s named David Brennan, stood. "Your Honor, while Mr. Jordan has no priors, the circumstances of his arrest are concerning. He was driving at extremely high speeds while intoxicated with drugs in his possession, putting other motorists at serious risk. The state requests bail be set at $50,000. Judge Williams looked at Marcus over her glasses. "Mr. Jordan, do you have anything to say?" Amanda whispered something to Marcus, likely advising him to remain silent. But Marcus shook his head and stood. "Your Honor, I don't want to make excuses. I made terrible decisions. I drove drunk and high, and I could have killed someone. I didn't, but that's luck, not judgment." His voice was steady, clear. "I'm an addict. I've been struggling with substance abuse and depression for years. The night I was arrested, I had actually called a treatment center. I was supposed to fly to California that morning for a 90-day program. But I got scared and made the worst decision of my life." The courtroom was silent. Even the court reporter had stopped typing, listening. "I'm not asking for special treatment because of who my father is. I'm just asking for the chance to get help, to go to treatment, and to take responsibility for what I've done and become the person I should have been all along." Judge Williams studied Marcus for a long moment. Then she looked at Michael, who met her gaze steadily. "Mr. Jordan, Marcus Jordan, I'm setting bail at $25,000. You're to surrender your passport. You're prohibited from operating any motor vehicle, and you're ordered to enter a residential treatment program within 48 hours, with proof of enrollment submitted to this court. She paused. I'm going to say something off the record, though it'll be on the record because everything in here is recorded. A slight smile crossed her face. Mr. Jordan, you've been given advantages most people never receive. You've also been given burdens most people never face. I hope you use this second chance to find out who you really are when no one is watching. When you're not performing for cameras or living up to a name, just you. That's the person who matters. Court is adjourned. The gavel fell. February 15th, 2025, 2:34 p.m., ESPN Studios. Bristol, Connecticut. Inside the ESPN Studios, the debate was already raging. Charles Barkley, Shaquille O'Neal, Kenny Smith, and Ernie Johnson sat around inside the NBA desk, though this was a special edition pulled together for the breaking news. Look, Charles said, leaning forward, his voice carrying that familiar mix of humor and hard truth. Marcus is not the first son of someone famous to struggle, and he won't be the last. Growing up as Michael Jordan's kid, that's a different kind of pressure than any of us can understand. The man is the greatest ever. How do you compete with that? Shaq nodded. My kids deal with some of that too. Or they got the O'Neal name, but I try to tell them, be yourself. You don't have to be me. But it's hard for them to hear that when everyone else is comparing them to me constantly. Kenny jumped in. But let's be real. Marcus was driving drunk and high on a highway at 95 miles per hour. He could have killed somebody. We can have sympathy for his struggle, but we also have to acknowledge he made dangerous, selfish choices. Absolutely, Charles agreed. I'm not excusing it. I'm saying we need to look at the whole picture. This is a young man who's been struggling, who called a treatment center, who was trying to get help. He messed up badly on the way there, but he's taking responsibility. That's more than a lot of people do. Ernie, always the voice of measured wisdom, spoke. What strikes me is Michael's response. So that statement he released, standing by his son, talking about courage, not distancing himself from the situation. That's real fatherhood. That's love. The conversation continued, replayed across sports media all day. Some commentators were harsh, calling Marcus privileged and reckless. Others were compassionate, discussing addiction as a disease, the unique pressures of celebrity children, the importance of treatment over incarceration. February 15th, 2025, 4:15 p.m. Skip Bayless's Twitter Skip Bayless, never one to miss an opportunity for controversy, tweeted, Michael Jordan built his brand on excellence, discipline, and mental toughness. His son Marcus represents the opposite: weakness, failure, inability to handle pressure. This is what happens when you coast on your father's name instead of building real character. At #undisputed. The tweet went viral, 12,000 retweets within an hour. The comments section exploded into warfare, some agreeing, many more attacking Skip for his lack of empathy. LeBron James quote-tweeted it, "This ain't it, Skip. Family over everything. Addiction is a disease, not a character flaw. Sending love to the Jordan family." Stephen Curry added, "Can't believe I'm saying this, but LeBron is 100% right. Have some compassion, Skip." Even President Anderson, the sitting president, was asked about it during a press conference on a completely unrelated topic. I don't comment on individual cases, but I will say this: addiction is a public health crisis in America. We need to treat it as a medical issue, not just a criminal one. And we need to support families who are struggling. February 16th to 2025. Social media explosion. By Friday morning, #MarcusJordan was trending worldwide on Twitter. The conversation had split into distinct camps. Team judgment, rich kids always getting away with everything. If that was a regular person, they'd be in jail for years. This is what happens when you're handed everything. MJ must be so embarrassed. Team compassion, addiction doesn't discriminate. Rich, poor, famous, unknown, it destroys lives. Thank you, Michael, for showing what real fatherhood looks like. I've been in recovery for 5 years. Marcus's story could have been mine. Glad he's getting help. Judge Williams nailed it. He's been given advantages and burdens. Team complexity. Both things can be true. He made terrible, dangerous choices, and he needs treatment. Not prison. Let's talk about how we treat celebrity kids and the impossible expectations we place on them. This is why mental health and addiction services need to be accessible to everyone, not just people who can afford Malibu rehabs. Instagram influencers weighed in. TikTok therapists created explainer videos about addiction. Reddit threads dove deep into Michael Jordan's parenting, Marcus's business history, the psychology of living in a famous parent's shadow. February 17th, 2025. Dr. Drew on CNN. Dr. Drew Pinsky, addiction specialist and media personality, appeared on CNN to discuss the case. What we're seeing with Marcus Jordan is actually quite common among children of extremely successful parents, Dr. Drew explained. There's a phenomenon called legacy burden, the psychological weight of being compared to a parent who's achieved at the highest possible level. For some children, it's motivating. For others, it's crushing. The CNN anchor asked, but he had every advantage. Money, connections, opportunities. How does that lead to addiction? Because addiction isn't about external circumstances, Dr. Drew responded. It's about internal pain. Marcus could have all the money in the world and still feel empty, inadequate, lost. In fact, sometimes those advantages make it worse. Because if you have everything and you're still miserable, what does that say about you? The shame spiral becomes even more intense. He continued. The good news is that Marcus is getting help. He's taking responsibility. He has family support. And those are the 3 biggest predictors of successful recovery. If he completes treatment, maintains sobriety, does the work, he has a real chance. February 18th, 2025. Scottie Pippen's response. Scottie Pippen, Michael's former teammate and Larsa's ex-husband, had remained silent for 3 days. Then he posted on Instagram, "Families are complicated. Relationships are messy. But when someone is struggling, we show compassion. Marcus, you're in my prayers. Michael, you're being the father every kid needs, present, supportive, loving, even when it's hard. That's real strength." The post was significant. Scottie and Michael's relationship had been strained for years. Tensions over money, legacy, and yes, Larsa's relationship with Marcus. But this was bigger than old grudges. The sports world noticed. Analysts called it a moment of grace. Fans appreciated the humanity. February 19th, 2025. The business impact. While the human drama played out, the business world watched Jordan Brand closely. Nike's stock dipped slightly, not catastrophically, but noticeably. The Jordan brand had always been built on Michael's image of excellence, and any association with drugs and arrest reports made investors nervous. But then something unexpected happened. Sales of certain Jordan sneakers, particularly the models Marcus had promoted through Trophy Room, actually increased. Resale values jumped. Sneakerheads and collectors, perhaps sensing these shoes would become historical artifacts, bought them up. Trophy Room's website crashed from traffic. Some people were leaving supportive comments. Others were trolling. But everyone was paying attention. Marcus's business partner, Terrence, released a statement. Trophy Room stands behind Marcus as he focuses on his health and recovery. The business will continue operating, and we look forward to Marcus returning when he's ready. February 20th, 2025. Michael's next move. Michael spent 5 days in Miami, attending meetings with Amanda Chen, setting up Marcus's transfer to Promises Treatment Center in Malibu, dealing with an avalanche of media requests, all declined, and simply being present for his son. On February 20th, Marcus was released from jail after completing processing and posting bail. Michael picked him up personally, driving Marcus to a private airfield where the Gulf Stream waited. Paparazzi had found them. They always did. Photos of Michael and Marcus walking to the plane. Marcus in civilian clothes now, his head down. Michael's arm around his shoulders went viral within minutes. One photo in particular became iconic. Marcus stumbling slightly on the stairs to the plane, Michael catching him, holding him steady. The caption wrote itself in 1,000 articles. Father and son. Inside the plane, Marcus sat by the window, staring out at Miami disappearing below them. "You ready for this?" Michael asked. "No, but I'm doing it anyway." That's all any of us can do. The flight to Los Angeles was quiet. Marcus slept most of the way, exhausted from 5 days in jail, from withdrawal, from the emotional weight of everything that had happened. Michael watched his son sleep and made a decision. After Marcus was settled in treatment, after the initial crisis had passed, they would go to Chicago, together. Dia and Marcus would show him whatever had been hidden in that gallery since 2018. Michael had no idea what he was about to discover, but he knew it mattered. Knew it was the key to understanding his son in a way he never had before. February 22nd, 2025. Day 1 of treatment. The drive from LAX to Malibu took an hour through Los Angeles traffic. Promises Treatment Center sat on a cliff overlooking the Pacific Ocean. Luxury rehab for those who could afford it. $90,000 for 90 days. Michael walked Marcus to the entrance. They stood in the parking lot, ocean wind whipping around them, seagulls crying overhead. "I'm scared," Marcus admitted. "I know, but you're also brave. Remember what Judge Williams said. Find out who you really are when no one's watching. This is where you do that. Will you visit?" "Every week, if they let me. And I'll be at every family therapy session. I'm not going anywhere, Marcus, I promise." They hugged, long, tight, neither wanting to let go. Finally, Marcus pulled back. "Thank you, Dad, for not giving up on me." "Never. You're my son. I love you. That's unconditional. Win or lose, success or failure, sober or struggling. I love you." Marcus wiped his eyes and walked through the doors of Promises. Michael watched until his son disappeared inside, then returned to his car. He sat there for 10 minutes, staring at the ocean, processing everything that had happened in 6 days. His perfect life, the one he'd built so carefully, the brand, the legacy, the image, had been shattered. And somewhere underneath the rubble was the truth he'd been avoiding. He'd been so focused on teaching Marcus how to win that he'd never taught him it was okay to lose, to be human, to be imperfect. Michael pulled out his phone and called Juanita. "He's in. He's safe." She exhaled audibly. "Thank God." "Juanita, when he's ready, we need to go to Chicago. All of us. Marcus has something to show us." Something important. What is it? I don't know. But I think it's the answer to why he's been struggling all these years. And I think we need to see it to really understand our son. Then we'll go. Whatever he needs. Michael ended the call and started the engine. The media storm would continue. The trial would loom. The rehabilitation would be long and uncertain. But for the first time in 6 days, Michael Jordan felt something close to hope. His son was getting help. The truth was coming. And maybe, just maybe, they could build something real from the wreckage. Something more valuable than championships or brands or legacies. Something like actual understanding. Promises Treatment Center, Malibu, California, February 25th, 2025. Marcus sat in the group therapy circle, 10 other patients arranged around him in a sun-filled room overlooking the Pacific. 3 days into treatment, and he still felt like his skin was on fire from the inside. Withdrawal from cocaine wasn't like heroin or alcohol. It wouldn't kill him, but the depression was crushing. A weight on his chest that made breathing feel like work. Marcus, would you like to share today? Dr. Sarah Chen, the group therapist, asked gently. She was in her 40s, with kind eyes and an air of having heard every story, every excuse, every justification. Marcus looked around the circle, a tech CEO who'd lost everything to pills, a housewife from Beverly Hills addicted to wine and Xanax, a college student who'd overdosed twice before his 20th birthday. All of them broken, all of them trying to put themselves back together. I'm Marcus, he said, his voice rough. I'm an addict. Hi, Marcus, the group responded in unison. I've been using cocaine for about 2 years. Before that, it was just alcohol. But I've been running from something my whole life. And I finally ran so far that I ended up in handcuffs on the side of a highway. He paused, gathering courage. My father is Michael Jordan. And before anyone says it, yes, I know how privileged that sounds. I know I had every advantage. But I also had this thing I could never escape. His shadow, his legacy, the constant comparison. And the worst part? I never even wanted what he wanted. I never loved basketball. I loved something completely different. Something I was too ashamed to admit. The room was silent, everyone listening. I'm an artist. I paint. I've been painting since I was 14 years old. And I've hidden it from my family for 20 years because I was terrified of disappointing my father. So I built a life that looked successful from the outside. The business, the parties, the Instagram posts. But inside, I was dying. And the cocaine made it bearable. Until it didn't. Dr. Chen nodded. Thank you for sharing that, Marcus. What you're describing is very common. Living an inauthentic life. Using substances to cope with the disconnect between who you are and who you're expected to be. What would it mean to you to live authentically? Marcus thought about the painting sitting in the Chicago gallery. About the life he could have lived if he'd been brave enough. About his father, who was flying in tomorrow for their first family therapy session. It would mean showing my father who I really am and trusting that he'll love me anyway. February 26th, 2025. First family therapy session. Michael sat on a couch in Dr. Chen's private office, Yvette beside him. The room was designed to feel safe. Soft lighting, comfortable furniture, a box of tissues prominently placed on the coffee table. Through the window, the Pacific stretched to the horizon, endless and blue. Marcus entered, looking better than he had 5 days ago. But the color was returning to his face. His hands weren't shaking. He'd gained a few pounds from eating regular meals. Hi, Dad. Hi, Yvette. Hey, son? Michael stood, hugging Marcus tightly. You look good. I feel a little better. It's hard, but I'm doing the work. They sat, an awkward triangle with Dr. Chen as the mediator. Thank you both for coming, Dr. Chen began. Family therapy is a crucial part of recovery. Michael, Marcus has shared some important things in group about his relationship with you. I want to create a space where both of you can speak honestly, without judgment. Does that sound okay? Michael nodded. Whatever he needs. Dr. Chen turned to Marcus. Marcus, you've talked about hiding parts of yourself from your father. Would you like to explain what you mean? Marcus took a deep breath. Dad, there's something I need to tell you. Something I've been hiding since I was 16. The paintings, Michael said quietly. The gallery in Chicago. You remember? I remember everything you said in that jail. I've been thinking about it for 2 weeks. Talk to me, Marcus. Help me understand. And Marcus did. For 45 minutes, he laid bare the truth. How he'd discovered art in middle school, how it made him feel alive in ways basketball never did, how he'd hidden canvas and paints in his closet like contraband, how every time someone compared him to Michael, he felt like he was suffocating. I didn't quit basketball because I wasn't good enough, Marcus said, tears streaming down his face. I quit because it was killing me. Every time I picked up a ball, I felt like I was performing someone else's life. But when I paint, when I create something from nothing, I feel like myself. And I was so terrified of disappointing you that I hid it for 20 years. Michael's jaw was tight, his eyes glistening. You thought I wouldn't accept you if you weren't a basketball player? I thought I wouldn't be enough. I thought being an artist made me weak, made me less than, made me not a Jordan. Marcus, Michael's voice broke. He paused, collecting himself. I'm so sorry. I never meant to make you feel that way. I never wanted you to be me. I just wanted you to find something you were passionate about and chase it with everything you had. But how could I tell you? You're the greatest basketball player of all time. You built an empire on competition, on winning, on being the best. How do I tell you that I don't want to compete, that I want to create, and that I measure success completely differently than you do? Dr. Chen interjected gently. Michael, how does it make you feel hearing this? Michael was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was raw with emotion. Like I failed as a father. Like I was so focused on my own definition of excellence that I couldn't see my son had a different path. Like I pushed so hard for you to find your greatness that I made you afraid to show me what that greatness actually looked like. He looked directly at Marcus. I don't need you to be a basketball player. I don't need you to be me. I need you to be healthy, to be authentic, to be happy. And if painting makes you happy, then that's what you should do. I'm sorry I made you feel like you couldn't tell me. That's on me. Marcus sobbed openly now. I have so much to show you, Dad. On years of work. Paintings that explain everything I could never say out loud. They're all in Chicago, waiting. Then we'll go, Michael said firmly, as soon as you're ready. And I'll see everything. And I promise you, I will love it, because it's yours. Because it's real. Because it's who you are. Dr. Chen smiled slightly. This is beautiful progress. But Marcus, I want to ask you something important. The paintings in Chicago, when did you finish the last one? The one you told me about in our individual session. Marcus wiped his eyes. February 13th, the night before I got arrested. I finished it at 2 a.m. and called the gallery owner, Elena. I told her I was bringing it to Chicago the next morning. And what is that painting called? Enough. Michael leaned forward. What does it show? Marcus described it. The two figures on the beach, father and son, the sunset, the peace, the acceptance. The vision of what Marcus wanted, but had been too afraid to pursue. I painted what I hoped for, Marcus said quietly. Not what I had, but what I wanted. You and me, just being together. No pressure, no expectations, just enough. Michael stood, pulled Marcus from his chair, and wrapped him in the kind of embrace that heals wounds invisible to the eye. You are enough. You always have been. I'm sorry it took me this long to say it clearly enough for you to believe it. They stood there, father and son, crying together while Dr. Chen watched with professional compassion and very human tears in her own eyes. March 15th, 2025. 3 weeks into treatment. Marcus's progress was steady. He attended group therapy daily, to individual sessions 3 times a week, family therapy every Sunday when Michael flew in. He was learning the language of recovery, triggers, coping mechanisms, the difference between shame and guilt, the concept of radical acceptance. But more than that, he was learning to be himself. In art therapy, a program within the treatment center, Marcus painted for the first time in 3 weeks. His hands shook at first, unsure if the gift was still there or if the cocaine had stolen it. But after a few tentative brush strokes, it flooded back. The ability to translate emotion into color, pain into beauty, truth into art. He created a new piece, a bird breaking free from a cage made of basketballs. His therapist asked what it meant. "It's me," Marcus said. Finally getting out. March 28th, 2025. Family Weekend Treatment Centers have family weekends. Intensive sessions where loved ones participate in the recovery process, learn about addiction, work through family dynamics. Michael flew in, as did Juanita and Jeffrey. The 4 of them sat in a larger therapy room with Dr. Chen and 2 other therapists. For 3 days, they unpacked decades of Jordan family history. Jeffrey talked about his own struggle with being the basketball son, the one who inherited their father's competitive drive, but not his transcendent talent. "I always felt like I was competing with a ghost," Jeffrey admitted. "Dad's younger self, and I could never measure up." Juanita cried as she talked about the divorce, about trying to protect her children from the media circus, about watching Marcus struggle and not knowing how to help. "Ade, I saw you pulling away," she told Marcus, "but I thought giving you space was what you needed. I should have pushed harder." Michael talked about his own father, James Jordan, murdered in 1993, and how that loss had shaped his parenting. "I became harder after he died, more focused on legacy, on building something that couldn't be taken away. But I forgot that the best legacy isn't trophies. It's children who know they're loved unconditionally." The vulnerability was shocking. These were Jordans, famous for strength, for winning, for never showing weakness. But in that room, they were just a family trying to heal. On the final day, Dr. Chen asked Marcus what he needed from his family going forward. "I need you to see me," Marcus said. "Not as Michael Jordan's son. Not as the kid who failed at basketball or the guy who runs Trophy Room, but just Marcus, the artist, the addict in recovery, the person I actually am. And I need to know that's enough." Juanita spoke first. "You're more than enough, baby. You always have been." Jeffrey added, "Bro, I'm proud of you, for getting help, for being real, for doing what I was too scared to do, living your own life." Michael looked at his youngest son, this man who carried his name and his DNA, but was beautifully, completely his own person. "Marcus, I love you. the real you. And I can't wait to see your art, to really understand who you are. That's the greatest gift you could give me. The truth. April 15th, 2025. 60 days sober. Marcus celebrated 2 months of sobriety with a cake in the treatment center's common room. His fellow patients cheered. Dr. Chen gave a speech about his progress. Michael called via video, watching his son blow out 2 candles representing 2 months of choosing life over oblivion. "I'm proud of you," Michael said from the screen. "Thanks, Dad. I'm proud of me, too." Marcus smiled, a real smile, not the performed version from his Instagram days. "Dr. Chen says I'm ready to leave after the full 90 days, ready to show you Chicago. I'll clear my schedule. Whatever day you want, we'll go. May 20th? That'll be day 85. 5 days before I complete the program. I want to do it while I'm still here, still in this space, so I can process whatever comes up with my therapists. May 20th it is. May 15th, 2025. Final week. Marcus's last week at Promises was a mix of celebration and anxiety. He'd done the work: individual therapy, group sessions, family therapy, addiction education, relapse prevention planning. He'd learned about his depression diagnosis, started medication that helped balance the chemical imbalances in his brain. He'd written letters to people he'd hurt, made amends where possible, accepted that some bridges were burned, and that was part of the consequences of his actions. But he was also terrified of leaving the safety of treatment, terrified of facing the real world, the media scrutiny, the legal proceedings, still ongoing, trial set for July. The pressure to prove he'd changed. Most of all, he was terrified of showing his father the paintings. In his final individual session with Dr. Chen, Marcus voiced this fear. What if he doesn't get it? What if he looks at my paintings and still doesn't understand me? Then you'll have tried, Dr. Chen said. You'll have been vulnerable and authentic. And that's all you can control, Marcus. Not his reaction, just your honesty. But what if it's not enough? Based on everything I've seen in family therapy, your father loves you deeply. He's been showing up every week, doing his own work, learning about addiction and mental health. He's trying. Give him the chance to prove he can see you. Marcus nodded, fear and hope warring in his chest. And remember, Dr. Chen added, you're not doing this for him. You're doing this for yourself, to stop hiding, to live authentically. His reaction, whatever it is, doesn't change the fact that you're an artist, that your work matters, that you matter. May 19th, 2025, the night before Chicago, Marcus couldn't sleep. Tomorrow, he and Michael would fly to Chicago. Tomorrow, after 20 years of hiding, Marcus would show his father the truth of who he was. That he'd already called Elena at the gallery. She'd kept everything safe. The dozens of paintings Marcus had created over the years, stored in the back room, waiting, including Enough, the painting he'd finished the night before his arrest. Marcus walked to the window of his room at Promises, looking out at the moonlight on the Pacific. 83 days sober. 83 days of choosing honesty over performance. 83 days of becoming himself. His phone buzzed. A text from Michael. Getting on the plane now. Landing in L.A. at 11 p.m. We'll leave for Chicago first thing in the morning. Whatever you need to show me, I'm ready to see it. I love you, son. Marcus typed back. I love you too, Dad. Thank you for not giving up on me. He hit send and whispered to his reflection in the window. You can do this. You are enough. The Pacific whispered back with waves against the shore, ancient and constant, caring nothing for fame or legacy or fear, only for the truth. And tomorrow, The truth would finally be revealed. O'Hare International Airport, Chicago, May 20th, 2025, 11:47 a.m. Michael's Gulfstream touched down on a gray Chicago morning. Rain streaked the windows. The city Marcus had fled years ago now welcoming them back with typical Midwest weather. Overcast, drizzly. The temperature stuck in the low 50s. Marcus pressed his forehead against the cold glass, watching the runway pass beneath them. 84 days sober. 84 days since he'd driven drunk and high down I-95. 84 days since his life had shattered and slowly, painfully, begun to rebuild. "You ready?" Michael asked from across the cabin. "No, but let's do it anyway." The SUV was waiting on the tarmac. Black, tinted windows, driver named Thomas, who'd worked for the Jordan family for 15 years. He nodded respectfully as they climbed in, asking no questions about where they were going or why. "Wicker Park," Marcus said. "Canvas and light gallery on North Damen Avenue." The drive took 40 minutes through Chicago traffic. Marcus watched the city pass, the skyline he'd grown up with, the neighborhoods that held memories of basketball courts and disappointed coaches and a childhood spent trying to be someone he wasn't. They passed the United Center, and Marcus felt Michael's eyes on him. "I haven't been back here since 2018, Marcus said quietly. "The last time was when I brought the paintings to Elena's gallery. I'd been storing them at different places over the years, friends' apartments, storage units, anywhere my family wouldn't find them. Elena offered to keep them all in one place, safe. She didn't charge me rent, said she believed in the work. She's seen them all? Every single one. She's one of 3 people who know about my art. Her, my college roommate, who moved to Portland. And now you." Michael absorbed this. His son had kept this massive part of his life hidden from everyone who mattered. The loneliness of that secrecy was staggering. The SUV turned onto North Damen, a street lined with boutiques, coffee shops, restaurants, the hipster heart of Chicago, where art and commerce collided. Canvas and Light was nestled between a vintage clothing store and a craft brewery, its front window displaying abstract sculptures and a sign announcing current exhibitions. "This is it," Marcus said, his voice barely audible. They parked. The rain had lessened to a light mist. Michael and Marcus stood on the sidewalk, father and son, about to cross a threshold that would change everything. "Marcus, before we go in," Michael turned to face his son directly. "Whatever's in there, whatever you've created, I want you to know something. I'm already proud of you, not for the paintings, for the courage it's taking to show me, for getting sober, for doing the work, for being honest. That's what matters." Marcus's eyes filled with tears. "What if you don't like them?" "Then I don't like them. But I'll love that they're yours, that they're real, that they're the truth." Marcus nodded, wiping his eyes. "Okay, so let's go." The bell above the gallery door chimed as they entered. The space was intimate. White walls, track lighting, polished concrete floors. A few visitors browsed the current exhibition, photographs of Chicago's architectural details. Elena Vasquez emerged from the back office. She was 58 now, with silver-streaked black hair pulled into a messy bun, wearing a paint-stained denim jacket over a black dress. She'd run Canvas and Light for 23 years, championing emerging artists who didn't fit the commercial mold. "Marcus," she crossed the gallery, embracing him tightly. "Look at you. You look healthy. You look alive." "I'm getting there. Elena, this is my father. Dad, this is Elena. She's kept my secret all these years." Elena extended her hand to Michael. Mr. Jordan, it's an honor. Your son is remarkably talented. I've been waiting years for him to be ready to share his work with the world. I'm glad you're finally going to see it. Thank you for protecting it, for protecting him. Elena smiled. He's family. Come on, it's all in the back. She led them through the gallery, past the public exhibition space, through a door marked private, down a short hallway, and into a large storage room. The walls were lined with racks holding paintings, some covered in cloth, others visible, all waiting in the semi-darkness like secrets held too long. Elena flipped on the overhead lights. Marcus's breath caught. He hadn't seen them all together in years. The visual representation of his entire emotional life, hidden in a Chicago storage room while he performed success in Florida. "I'll leave you alone," Elena said, squeezing Marcus's shoulder. "Take all the time you need. I'll be out front if you need anything." The door closed softly. Father and son stood alone among the paintings. "Where do we start?" Michael asked. "Chronologically, I guess. This one," Marcus pulled the cloth off a canvas near the door, "was the first one I ever finished. I was 16. I painted it 2 weeks after I quit the basketball team. The painting showed a basketball court dissolving into abstract waves of color, reds bleeding into blacks, oranges fading to blues, the structure of the court breaking apart into chaos that was somehow beautiful. I called it dissolution," Marcus said. "It's about the moment I realized basketball was destroying me, that the thing everyone expected me to love was actually killing me piece by piece." Michael stared at it, genuinely studying it. And the technique was raw but powerful. Aggressive brush strokes, bold color choices, emotional intensity bleeding through every inch of canvas. "It's painful," Michael said finally, "but it's also honest. I can feel what you were feeling." Marcus moved to the next painting, a self-portrait, but distorted. The face fractured into geometric pieces like a Picasso, each piece showing a different expression. Joy, sadness, fear, anger, all coexisting in the same face. Fragments. Age 17. About feeling like I was different people for different audiences. Never whole, never real. They moved through the gallery of Marcus's hidden life, painting after painting, each one a chapter in the story he'd never spoken aloud. The shadow. A small figure standing in the overwhelming shadow of a giant. Marcus at 18, graduating high school. Performance. A figure wearing different masks, each one labeled son, businessman, Jordan. Age 23, the year he opened Trophy Room. Drowning in gold. A person submerged in gold coins and medals, their hand reaching upward toward air they couldn't reach. Age 27, when Trophy Room's success felt suffocating rather than liberating. The party. A chaotic scene of bodies and bottles and lights, with one figure in the center standing completely still, eyes empty. Age 31, painted during his relationship with Larsa, capturing the loneliness of constant performance. Michael absorbed each one, asking questions, listening as Marcus explained the inspiration, the emotion, the moment in his life each painting captured. Michael's face showed everything. Pain at missing these moments, pride at his son's talent, grief at the suffering these paintings represented. After 40 minutes, they reached the second-to-last painting. Marcus pulled off the cloth with shaking hands. The canvas showed a young man sitting in a closet, surrounded by art supplies, light coming through the crack in the door. The young man's face was turned away, hidden, but his body language communicated everything: shame, fear, loneliness, and defiant creation in the face of all of it. Hiding. Marcus whispered. Age 25. This is me at 16, 17, 18. Every night I spent painting in my closet, while everyone thought I was sleeping or doing homework. This is the truth of my childhood, Dad. This is who I was when no one was watching. Michael's jaw clenched. Tears ran down his face. The man who rarely cried in public, who'd built a career on stoic dominance. I was openly weeping in a Chicago storage room. I'm so sorry, Michael said, his voice breaking. I'm so sorry I made you hide, that I created a world where you felt like this was your only option. Dad, it's not all your fault. Yes, it is. Not completely, but partly. I was so focused on my own definition of success that I couldn't see yours, so focused on teaching you to win that I never taught you it was okay to just be yourself. Marcus wiped his own tears. You're here now. That's what matters. Show me the last one. Marcus turned to the final painting, covered in white cloth, hanging alone on the far wall like it was waiting for this exact moment. He approached it slowly, reverently, his hands trembling as he gripped the cloth. I finished this at 2 a.m. on February 13th, 2025, the night before I got arrested. I'd been working on it for 3 months, trying to get it right, trying to paint what I wanted instead of what I had. I called Elena that morning, told her I was bringing it to Chicago, but I never made it. I got drunk and high instead because I was terrified of what this painting meant. He paused, gathering courage. This painting is called Enough. It's the answer to every question I've ever had about my life. It's what I've been searching for since I was 14 years old. Marcus pulled the cloth away. The painting was 6 feet wide, 4 feet tall, the largest piece in the collection. It showed 2 figures sitting on a beach at sunset, the ocean stretching before them to the horizon. The older figure, clearly Michael, had his arm around the younger figure, clearly Marcus. They were looking at the sunset together, and everything about their body language communicated peace, acceptance, presence. But it was the details that made it extraordinary. Michael's face wasn't the face of Michael Jordan, the icon. It was softer, more vulnerable, more human. The legendary confidence was gone, replaced by simple, fatherly love. And Marcus's face showed something equally transformative: contentment. Not the performed happiness of Instagram photos, but genuine peace. The sunset was painted with extraordinary skill, purples and oranges and pinks bleeding together in ways that suggested both ending and beginning. The ocean was textured, layered, deep, suggesting both danger and possibility. In the bottom corner, nearly invisible, Marcus had painted small text. You are enough. I am enough. We are enough. Michael stood before it, speechless. His chest heaved with sobs he could no longer contain. He stepped closer, examining every brushstroke, every color choice, every detail that his son had labored over, while the world thought he was just a party boy, wasting his potential. This is... Michael struggled for words. This is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Really? Marcus's voice was small, childlike, desperate for approval he'd craved his entire life. Really? Marcus, this isn't just good. This is extraordinary. The technique, the emotion, the composition, you're not just an artist. You're a real, genuine, exceptional artist. This belongs in museums. This belongs in galleries where everyone can see it. Marcus laughed through tears. You're just saying that because you're my dad. No. Michael turned to face his son directly. I'm saying it because it's true. I've seen art in museums all over the world. I've been to the Louvre, the Met, the Art Institute of Chicago. This painting, this entire collection, belongs among the best I've seen. And more importantly, It tells a story that needs to be told. Your story. The story of living in someone else's shadow and finding your way into your own light. He walked to Marcus, placing both hands on his son's shoulders. Do you understand what you've created here? You've taken 20 years of pain and transformed it into beauty. That's what great art does. It doesn't hide from truth. It reveals it. It doesn't perform. It exposes. You've done that. You, Marcus. Not me. Not the Jordan name. You. Marcus collapsed into his father's arms, 20 years of shame and fear, and hiding, finally releasing in racking sobs. Michael held him, both of them crying, and both of them finally seeing each other clearly for the first time. I was so scared you wouldn't understand, Marcus said into his father's shoulder. I understand. Maybe not everything, not yet. But I understand that you're an artist, that this is your calling, that everything else, trophy room, the parties, the persona, was the performance. This is real, and it's extraordinary. They stood there among the paintings, surrounded by Marcus's hidden life, as the truth that had waited 20 years to be revealed finally came into the light. After several minutes, Michael pulled back, wiping his eyes. What do you want to do with these? What do you mean? These paintings tell your story. They're powerful, important. Do you want to keep hiding them? Or are you ready to let the world see who Marcus Jordan really is? Marcus looked around at his life's work, at the visual diary of his suffering and survival, at the truth he'd been too terrified to share. I want to show them, he said, surprised by the certainty in his voice. I want an exhibition. I want people to see. Not because of your name, but because the work matters. Because maybe someone else who's hiding who they are will see these and feel less alone. Michael smiled, a genuine smile of pure pride. Then we'll make it happen. Elena clearly believes in your work. We'll set up an exhibition. We'll do this right. But what about the Jordan brand? What about your image? People might think, I don't care what people think, Michael interrupted. For the first time in my life, I genuinely don't care. This matters more. You matter more. Your truth matters more than any brand or image I've spent decades building. Marcus felt something shift in his chest, a weight lifting he didn't know he'd been carrying. Permission, acceptance, love without conditions. There's one more thing, Marcus said. When I paint, I don't use the Jordan name. I sign my work as Marcus James, just my first and middle name, because I want the art to stand on its own, to be judged for what it is, not whose son created it. Marcus James, Michael repeated. I love it. Your mother will love it. It honors both sides of your family without being burdened by expectation. They turned back to enough, standing side by side before the painting that represented everything Marcus had wanted but been too afraid to ask for. Is this what you want? Michael asked, pointing to the painting. You seen the two of us just being together? No pressure, no expectations? Yes, just you and me, father and son, not legend and disappointment, not icon and failure, just two people who love each other, being enough for each other. Then that's what we'll be, Michael said. Starting now, no more hiding, no more performing, just truth, just us. Marcus looked at his father, really looked at him, and saw something he'd never seen before. Not the greatest basketball player of all time, not the billionaire businessman, not the global icon, just his dad, imperfect, learning, growing, loving him unconditionally. Thank you, Marcus whispered. For what? For seeing me. Finally. Really seeing me. Michael pulled his son close again. Thank you for letting me. Thank you for being brave enough to show me. They stood there in the storage room of a Wicker Park gallery, surrounded by decades of hidden art, as rain pattered against the windows, and Chicago continued its day outside, unaware that inside this small space, a father and son had finally found each other. The secret was revealed. The truth was exposed. The performance was over. And somehow, miraculously, it was enough. More than enough. It was everything. Canvas and Light Gallery, May 20th, 2025, 2:15 p.m. Elena returned to the storage room carrying 3 cups of coffee and a knowing smile. She found Michael and Marcus sitting on the floor, backs against the wall, still staring at enough like it might disappear if they looked away. "So," she said, handing them coffee. "He showed you." Michael took the cup gratefully. "He showed me." "Elena, why didn't you tell him how talented he is? All these years, you've been sitting on this knowledge." "Because it wasn't my place," Elena interrupted gently. "Marcus needed to believe it himself first. Needed to get healthy. Needed to be ready. Art created in hiding has power, but art shared with the world? That requires a different kind of courage." She sat on a metal stool, cradling her own coffee. "I've been running this gallery for 23 years. I've seen thousands of artists. Most are technically proficient. Some are emotionally honest. Very few are both. Marcus is both. His work deserves to be seen." "Then let's make that happen," Michael said. "What do we need to do?" Elena's eyes lit up. "You're serious? You want to exhibit these?" Marcus spoke up, his voice stronger now. "I want to do it right. Under the name Marcus James. No press releases about whose son I am. No trading on the Jordan name. I want the work to stand on its own first. If people discover later that I'm Michael Jordan's son, fine. But the art comes first." "That's incredibly risky," Elena said. "You could have instant attention, guaranteed sales, media coverage. You're choosing the hard road." "I've been taking the easy road my whole life," Marcus replied. "Using my father's name to open trophy room, to get VIP tables, to feel important. It never made me feel worthy. I need to do this differently. I need to earn it." Michael felt pride swell in his chest. This was what he'd tried to teach both his sons, that the work matters, that shortcuts feel empty, that real satisfaction comes from earning something through effort and talent. "Okay," Elena said, already planning. "Here's what I propose. Can we do an exhibition in August? Gives us time to properly curate, to build buzz through the art community without celebrity gossip. We'll do a soft launch, invitations to critics, collectors, other artists. We'll photograph the work professionally, create a catalog. We'll do this right." "August 20th, Marcus said suddenly. "Can we open August 20th? "Why that date?" Elena asked. "It'll be exactly 6 months since my arrest. 6 months of sobriety. 6 months since my life fell apart and started coming back together. It feels significant." Michael nodded. "I like it. It's honest. It acknowledges the journey." "August 20th it is," Elena confirmed. "And Marcus? You should create more work between now and then. You're sober, you're in therapy, you're finally living authentically. I want to see what you create from this place. From recovery, from truth." Marcus's eyes widened. "I haven't painted in 3 months. What if I can't? What if the cocaine was part of—" "It wasn't," Elena said firmly. "The cocaine was blocking you, not enabling you. These paintings," she gestured around the room, "were created despite the addiction, not because of it. Sober Marcus, authentic Marcus, will create even better work. Trust me." May 22nd, 2025. Marcus's arraignment continuation. 2 days later, Marcus stood before Judge Patricia Williams again. 3 months had passed since his initial arraignment. He'd completed 90 days at Promises Treatment Center, maintained sobriety, attended outpatient therapy 3 times a week, and complied with every condition of his bail. Amanda Chen presented the plea deal she'd negotiated. Marcus would plead guilty to reckless driving and possession charges. And in exchange, he'd receive 3 years probation, 200 hours of community service, mandatory continued treatment and drug testing, a $50,000 fine, and his license suspension would stand for 1 year. No jail time. Judge Williams reviewed the agreement, then looked at Marcus over her glasses. "Mr. Jordan, how do you plead to the charge of reckless driving?" "Guilty, Your Honor." "And to the charge of possession of a controlled substance?" "Guilty, Your Honor." "The court accepts your plea. Mr. Jordan, I'm approving this agreement based on your demonstrated commitment to recovery. Your treatment center reports are excellent. Your drug tests have been consistently clean. You've shown accountability and genuine effort to change. But understand this." Her voice hardened. "If you violate the terms of your probation, if you use drugs or alcohol, if you fail to complete your community service or continue treatment, this deal is void. You'll serve time. Am I clear?" "Yes, Your Honor. Crystal clear." "I'm also adding a special condition to your probation. You're going to speak at schools, community centers, treatment facilities. You're going to share your story, the real story, not the sanitized version, with young people who might be heading down the same path. You have a platform. Use it for something meaningful." Marcus swallowed hard. Public speaking about his addiction, his arrest, his failures? It terrified him. But it was also exactly what Dr. Chen had encouraged, using his pain to help others. "I will, Your Honor. I promise." "Good. This court is adjourned." Outside the courthouse, Michael waited with Juanita and Jeffrey. The media presence was smaller now. 3 months later, the story had cooled. Other scandals, other celebrities, other disasters had captured attention. "How do you feel?" Juanita asked, embracing her son. "Like I just got the second chance I don't deserve, but I'm grateful for anyway." "You deserve it," Jeffrey said. "You did the work, bro. You earned it." They walked to the parking lot together, a family reunited not by perfection but by honesty, not by success, but by survival. June 15th, 2025. First Community Service Day. Marcus's community service requirement brought him to Overtown Youth Center in Miami, a facility serving at-risk teenagers from one of the city's poorest neighborhoods. He'd spend every Saturday for the next year here, mentoring kids, organizing activities, being present. The program director, a woman named Charisse Thompson, greeted him skeptically. "Look, I don't care whose son you are. These kids need consistency, not celebrity drop-ins for photo ops. You're here every Saturday, on time, doing real work. Understood?" "Understood," Marcus said. "I'm not here for photo ops. I'm here because Judge Williams ordered it, and because I want to be. I messed up badly. If I can help even one kid not make my mistakes, it's worth it." Charisse's expression softened slightly. "All right, let's see what you've got." She led him to the art room, a cramped space with donated supplies, broken easels, and walls covered in colorful murals. 15 teenagers lounged around, ages 13 to 17, regarding Marcus with suspicion and curiosity. "This is Marcus," Charisse announced. "He's here doing community service, and he's going to help with the art program." "What did you do to get community service?" a girl named Destiny asked, her tone challenging. She was 15, all attitude and defensive armor. Marcus could have deflected, could have given a vague answer, but Dr. Chen's voice echoed in his head. Authenticity builds connection. Vulnerability creates trust. I got arrested for DUI and cocaine possession, Marcus said plainly. I drove drunk and high at 95 miles per hour on the highway. I could have killed someone. I'm an addict in recovery. I've been sober for 122 days. The room went silent. Nobody expected that level of honesty. A boy named Darius, 17, spoke up. My uncle's an addict. Can't stay clean more than a few months before he relapses. How you know you won't do that? I don't know, Marcus admitted. Not for certain. See, but I go to therapy 3 times a week. I go to AA meetings. I take medication for depression. I'm learning to be honest about my struggles instead of hiding them. That's all I can do. Take it one day at a time. Destiny leaned forward. What's it like? Being Michael Jordan's son? Marcus smiled sadly. Heavy. Really heavy. Like carrying a weight you didn't ask for. Like everyone's watching all the time, comparing you, expecting things. It doesn't excuse my choices, but it explains some of why I struggled. Is your dad mad at you? Another student asked. He was scared for me, disappointed in my choices, but not mad. He's been showing up every week, doing family therapy, learning about addiction. He's been there. That's what matters. For the next 2 hours, Marcus worked with the students. He taught them basic painting techniques, color theory, composition, how to translate emotion onto canvas. He was patient, encouraging, genuinely present. When Destiny showed him a painting she'd been working on, a self-portrait fragmented into pieces, hauntingly similar to Marcus's own fragments. He felt tears prick his eyes. This is beautiful, he told her. It's real. It's honest. Don't ever stop creating. You really think it's good? I'm not very good at art. You're better than you think. And art isn't about being good. It's about telling the truth. That's what you're doing here. Keep going. At the end of the day, Charisse pulled Marcus aside. You did good today. The kids responded to you. That doesn't always happen with community service people. Usually they're just going through the motions. Not you were actually present. Can I come back? I know I'm only required on Saturdays, but could I come on Wednesdays too? Work with the art program more? Charisse studied him. You serious? I'm serious. These kids need to know someone cares, that someone sees them, that they matter. I needed that when I was their age and didn't get it. Maybe I can be that for them. Wednesdays and Saturdays. Deal. Marcus left Overtown Youth Center feeling something unexpected. Purpose. Not the hollow success of trophy room sales or Instagram followers. Real purpose. The kind that comes from using your pain to ease someone else's. July 10th, 2025, creating again, Marcus set up a studio in a small apartment he'd rented in Los Angeles, staying close to his outpatient treatment program. The space was simple. Hardwood floors, high ceilings, to north-facing windows that provided perfect light for painting. He stood before a blank canvas, brush in hand, terrified. What if he couldn't do it anymore? What if sobriety had taken away whatever made his art powerful? What if the darkness that fueled his creativity was gone, and without it, he was just ordinary? His sponsor, a man named Robert who'd been sober for 15 years, had warned him about this. Early recovery. Everything feels flat. Your brain is relearning how to feel without chemicals. Give it time. The creativity will come back, but different, clearer. Marcus dipped his brush in paint, cerulean blue, the color of the Pacific outside promises, and made the first stroke. Then another. and another. For 6 hours, he painted. Not from darkness this time, but from hope. From the fragile, terrifying, a beautiful experience of rebuilding a life. From the feeling of being seen by his father for the first time. From the kids at Overtown Youth Center who reminded him why survival matters. When he stepped back, exhausted and covered in paint, he saw what he'd created. A figure emerging from water, breaking the surface, gasping for air. The figure's face was tilted toward light streaming from above. The water was dark and turbulent below, but above the surface, the light was golden, promising, real. He called it surfacing. It was the first painting he'd created sober, and it was extraordinary. Marcus took a photo and sent it to his father with a simple message. "I can still do it. Maybe better than before." Michael's response came immediately. "That's my son. That's my boy. I'm so proud of you I can barely breathe." Marcus read the text 3 times, then saved it, then read it again. Words he'd waited 34 years to hear. Words that finally felt true. August 1st, 2025. The interview. As the exhibition date approached, Elena suggested Marcus do one interview, not with sports media or celebrity gossip outlets, but with a respected art publication. Something that would introduce Marcus James the artist to the art world without sensationalizing his story. Marcus chose Art Forum, a serious publication that focused on the work rather than scandal. The interviewer was a woman named Claire DuPont, a critic known for her intelligent, thoughtful writing. They met at a coffee shop near Marcus's studio. Claire had seen advance photos of the exhibition. Her first question surprised him. "Your work deals with identity, or performance, and authenticity. These themes are present throughout your collection, from your earliest pieces to your most recent. When did you first realize you were living an inauthentic life?" Marcus thought carefully. "I think I always knew, on some level. But I really understood it at 16, when I quit basketball. That was the first time I made a choice for myself, instead of for everyone else's expectations. And then I spent the next 18 years trying to find a middle ground, authentic enough to survive, performative enough to be accepted. The cocaine and alcohol let me tolerate that middle ground. Sobriety made it impossible. Your most recent work, Enough, painted just before your arrest. It depicts acceptance and peace. Were you painting what you wanted, or what you feared you'd never have?" "Both. I painted hope. And I painted the relationship with my father I was too scared to pursue in real life. And then life forced me to pursue it anyway. The arrest was the worst thing that ever happened to me. It was also the catalyst for everything changing." Do you consider yourself a recovered addict or a recovering addict? Recovering. Always recovering. Addiction isn't something you cure. It's something you manage every day for the rest of your life. Right now, I'm 168 days sober. Tomorrow, if I'm lucky and I do the work, I'll be 169 days sober. That's how it works. Claire made notes, then looked at him directly. "You're choosing to exhibit under the name Marcus James, rather than Marcus Jordan. Why?" "Because I need to know that my art matters on its own. That it's not just interesting because of my father's name. I've spent my whole life being Michael Jordan's son. For once, I want to be judged on my own merit. If people figure out later who my father is, that's fine. But the art comes first." "What do you hope people take away from your exhibition?" Marcus paused, considering. "I hope they see that hiding who you are is a kind of death, that performing for others instead of being yourself is unsustainable, that asking for help is strength, not weakness, and that it's never too late to start being honest. I'm 34 years old. I wasted 20 years hiding, but I have the rest of my life to be real. That's the message. It's never too late to surface. The interview was published August 15th, 5 days before the exhibition. It was thoughtful, respectful, and focused entirely on the work and Marcus's artistic journey. Oh, his connection to Michael Jordan was mentioned in one sentence at the end. Factual, not sensationalized. The art world took notice. Galleries in New York, Los Angeles, and London expressed interest in future exhibitions. Critics marked their calendars for the opening. Marcus James was being recognized as an artist in his own right. It felt like flying. August 19th, 2025. The night before. Marcus couldn't sleep. Tomorrow was the opening. His art would be public for the first time. People would judge it, interpret it, decide if it mattered. His phone rang at 11 p.m. His father. "Can't sleep either?" Michael asked. "Too nervous. What if nobody comes? What if people hate it? What if—" "Marcus, stop. You've already won." "What do you mean?" "You created the work. You told your truth. You're sober, healthy, doing the work. Whether the exhibition is a success or not doesn't change any of that. You've already succeeded at the thing that matters most. Being yourself." Marcus felt his anxiety ease slightly. "Thanks, Dad. I'll be there tomorrow. Front row. So proud I might cry, which will be embarrassing for both of us, but I don't care." Marcus laughed. "See you tomorrow." He hung up and walked to his studio window, looking out at the Los Angeles skyline. Somewhere out there, people were struggling with the same things he'd struggled with. Identity, expectations, the weight of other people's dreams. Maybe his art would reach them. Maybe it wouldn't. But he'd tried. He'd been brave enough to try. And tomorrow, the world would see who Marcus James, Marcus Jordan, really was. It was terrifying. It was liberating. It was enough. Canvas and Light Gallery. To Chicago, August 20th, 2025, 6:45 p.m. The gallery was transformed. White walls displayed Marcus's paintings, each one professionally lit, labeled with small placards showing title, medium, and year. Marcus James was printed on every label. Not Jordan, just James. Elena had done extraordinary work. The exhibition flowed chronologically, taking viewers through Marcus's journey from teenage anguish to adult crisis to fragile recovery. The centerpiece, Enough, hung in the main gallery space, 6 feet wide and impossible to ignore. Marcus stood in the back room, adjusting his tie for the 5th time. He wore a simple black suit, white shirt, no jewelry except a 6-month sobriety chip in his pocket that he kept touching like a talisman. Through the doorway, he could see people beginning to arrive. "You ready?" Elena asked, he appearing beside him with a glass of sparkling water. No champagne at this opening, out of respect for Marcus's sobriety. "I'm terrified." "Good. That means it matters." She squeezed his shoulder. "Your family's here. And Marcus? There's a line around the block. We might have to limit entry to fire code capacity." Marcus's heart jumped. "Really?" "Really." The art forum piece created buzz. People want to see the work. Come on, it's time. Marcus stepped into the gallery. The space was already filling. Art critics he recognized from magazines, collectors Elena had invited, professors from the Art Institute of Chicago, and people from the community who'd seen the announcement and were curious. And there, standing in front of Dissolution, was his family. Michael stood with his arm around Yvette. Juanita stood beside them. Irene Jeffrey was there with his wife and their 2 young children. Marcus's daughter, 3-year-old Amaya, from a previous relationship, held her mother's hand, too young to understand but present anyway. Marcus approached slowly, his heart pounding. Michael turned, saw his son, and his face broke into the widest smile Marcus had ever seen. "There's the artist. You came. Did you think I wouldn't? Son, I wouldn't miss this for anything in the world." Michael embraced him tightly. "I've been looking at your paintings for 30 minutes. Each one is more incredible than the last. I keep wanting to tell everyone, that's my son. My son created this. But I'm restraining myself because I know you want the work to speak first." Juanita hugged Marcus next, tears already streaming down her face. "Baby, these are beautiful. I had no idea. All these years, you were creating this, and we didn't know. I'm sorry I hid it. Don't apologize. I'm just grateful you're finally sharing it. I'm so proud of you." Jeffrey punched his shoulder lightly. "Little brother, you've been holding out on us. This stuff is legit. Like, really legit. I don't know anything about art, but I know when something makes me feel. And this," he gestured around, "this makes me feel everything." Marcus's daughter tugged on his pants leg. "Daddy, did you make all the pictures?" He scooped her up. "I did, baby girl. They're pretty. That one has a boy in a closet. Is that you?" Marcus looked at Hiding, the painting of his teenage self creating art in secret. "Yeah, sweetheart. That was me when I was young. Before I learned it was okay to show people who I really was." "I like who you really are," Amaya said simply, with the devastating honesty of 3-year-olds. Marcus's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you, baby. That means everything." 7:15 p.m. The opening begins. Elena called for attention, standing in the center of the main gallery. Over 100 people had crowded in, with more waiting outside. The local news had sent a crew. Word had gotten out that this was Michael Jordan's son's exhibition, though Elena had specifically requested they not lead with that. Welcome everyone to Surfacing the Art of Marcus James. This exhibition represents 20 years of work from an extraordinary artist who is sharing his vision with the world for the first time. The pieces you'll see tonight deal with themes of identity, authenticity, struggle, and ultimately, hope. Marcus has asked that the work speak for itself, so I'll keep my remarks brief. But I will say this: it's a privilege to witness an artist finding the courage to be fully seen. Marcus, would you like to say a few words? Marcus stepped forward, his hands shaking. Public speaking had never been his strength, and talking about his art, about himself, felt impossibly vulnerable. But he thought about the kids at Overtown Youth Center, about destiny showing him her fragmented self-portrait, about being the person he'd needed when he was 16. "Thank you all for coming," he began, his voice steadier than he expected. "These paintings represent my attempt to understand myself, to process pain I didn't know how to talk about. For most of my life, I hid who I was because I thought being myself wasn't enough. I thought I needed to be someone else, someone stronger, more successful, more like the image people expected." He paused, looking at his father, who nodded encouragingly. "6 months ago, I hit rock bottom. I got arrested for DUI and cocaine possession. I was an addict spiraling out of control, living a lie, dying slowly from the inside out. That arrest saved my life. It forced me to get honest about my addiction, about my mental health, about who I really am underneath all the performance." The room was silent, everyone listening. These paintings were created in hiding, in closets, in secret studio spaces, in moments stolen from the life I was pretending to live. They represent the real me, the artist, the person who feels deeply and processes the world through color and form. I'm showing them now because I'm finally ready to be seen. Not as somebody's son, not as a businessman or a celebrity, but as myself, as Marcus. He gestured to the walls around them. If you're someone who's hiding parts of yourself, who's performing for others instead of being authentic, who's struggling with the weight of expectations, I see you. These paintings are for you. It's never too late to surface, to be real, to be enough. Applause filled the gallery, genuine, warm, supportive. Marcus felt overwhelmed, supported, terrified, and strangely peaceful all at once. 8 p.m. Reactions. Pour in as the evening progressed. Marcus moved through the crowd, talking with viewers, answering questions about his work. The conversations were surreal. A gallery owner from New York. Your use of color is extraordinary. The way you blend emotional intensity with technical skill, I'd love to discuss representing you in Manhattan. An art professor from Northwestern. I'm teaching a course on contemporary portraiture. Would you consider doing a talk for my students about identity and self-representation? A young woman, maybe 25, with tears streaming down her face. I've been hiding that I'm a writer. My family wants me to be a lawyer. Your painting performance, I felt like you painted my life. Thank you for making me feel less alone. That last conversation hit Marcus hardest. This was why the work mattered. Not for critical acclaim or gallery representation, but for connection. For helping others feel seen. Around 8:30, a man approached Marcus in front of The Shadow. He was in his 60s, well-dressed, and with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. "Marcus James?" he asked. "Yes, that's me." "Donald Chen. I'm a collector here in Chicago. I've been buying art for 40 years. I wanted you to know, your work is exceptional. The emotional honesty combined with genuine technical skill is rare. Very rare. Thank you. That means a lot. I'm particularly moved by this piece, The Shadow. The composition, the use of negative space, the way the large figure looms without being menacing. It's about influence without malice, isn't it? The weight of legacy. Marcus nodded, impressed. Exactly. It's about living in someone else's shadow, not because they're trying to cast one, but because they're just so big, so accomplished. The shadow is inevitable. Donald studied the painting for a long moment. I'd like to purchase this piece. If it's for sale. Marcus's breath caught. His first sale. To someone who appreciated the work, who understood it, who wanted to live with it. It is. Elena handles the sales. Already spoke with her. She quoted me $15,000. That's more than fair for work of this quality. Consider it sold. After Donald walked away, Marcus stood there, stunned. $15,000. For a painting he'd created at 18, hiding in his closet, terrified someone would find out. Someone wanted to pay $15,000 to own a piece of his truth. Elena appeared beside him, grinning. That's not all. I've sold 3 more pieces, and I have serious interest in at least 6 others. Marcus, this is a successful opening by any measure. People actually want my art? People want your art because it's good, because it's honest, because it matters. This is what I've been telling you for years. You have real talent. Now, the world is seeing it too. 9:30 p.m. The reveal. Marcus was talking with a group of viewers near Enough when he heard a commotion near the entrance. Cameras flashing, excited whispers. He turned to see what was happening. Charles Barkley had just walked in, followed by Scottie Pippen. Charles spotted Michael immediately and crossed the gallery with his characteristic swagger. "Mike, didn't know you were into art galleries now. What happened to just buying the team? Michael laughed, embracing his former rival and friend. I'm here supporting my son. Charles, Scotty, I want you to meet someone. This is Marcus, the artist. Charles looked at Marcus, then at the paintings, then back at Marcus. Wait, Marcus? You're Marcus? This is all your work? Yes, sir, Marcus said. I'm still processing that Charles Barkley and Scottie Pippen were standing in his exhibition. Scotty extended his hand. Marcus, we've met before, but not like this. Not as artist to, well, art appreciator, I guess. This work is powerful, man. Really powerful. Thank you. That means a lot, especially given everything. Marcus glanced at Scotty, thinking about Larsa, about the complicated history between their families. Scotty seemed to understand. Ancient history. What matters is you're healthy, and doing this, he gestured to the paintings, sharing your gift. That takes courage. Charles was standing in front of Drowning in Gold, studying it intently. This one right here. This is about having everything but feeling empty, right? Exactly, Marcus confirmed. Not about how external success doesn't always match internal reality. Man, I felt this way sometimes during my career, Charles admitted. All the money, the fame, the championships. Well, not the championships. That's Mike's territory. Everyone laughed. But having all that and still feeling like something's missing, you captured that feeling. That's real art right there. Within minutes, word spread through the gallery. Michael Jordan's son is the artist. The NBA legends are here. Suddenly, more people pressed in, more phones came out, more attention focused on Marcus. He felt the familiar panic rising, the performance anxiety, the pressure to be on, the weight of being Michael Jordan's son rather than Marcus James, the artist. Then he felt his father's hand on his shoulder, grounding him. You okay? Michael asked quietly. Just overwhelmed. Worried people are only interested now because of you. Look around. Really look. What do you see? Marcus looked. He saw people standing in front of his paintings, really looking at them, discussing them, taking photos not of the celebrity guests, but of the art itself, having emotional reactions, connecting with the work. I see people seeing me, Marcus said softly. Exactly. The work stands on its own. My being here, Charles and Scotty showing up, that might have brought extra attention. But the art is what's holding that attention. You did that. Your talent. Your truth. 10:45 p.m. The night winds. Down as the crowd thinned, Marcus found himself standing alone in front of Enough, the painting that had started this entire journey of revelation. A young man approached, maybe 19 or 20, nervous energy radiating off him. Excuse me, are you Marcus James? I am. I just wanted to say, this painting. Enough. I've been staring at it for 20 minutes. I'm a sophomore at DePaul, and I'm supposed to be pre-med because that's what my parents want, but I want to be a dancer. And everyone tells me that's not a real career, that I'm wasting my potential, that I should do something practical. But looking at this painting, at the peace in it, at the acceptance, I realized I've been waiting for permission. Permission to be who I am instead of who everyone expects. The young man's eyes were wet with tears. So thank you for showing me what's possible, for painting what I've been too scared to say out loud. Marcus felt his own throat tighten. What's your name? David. David, listen to me. You don't need anyone's permission to be yourself. Not your parents, not society's, not mine. The only permission that matters is the permission you give yourself. It's terrifying. It might cost you relationships. It might mean doing things the hard way. But living an authentic life, dancing instead of pretending to want medicine, that's not wasting potential. That's fulfilling it. David nodded, wiping his eyes. Thank you. Really? After David walked away, Elena appeared beside Marcus. That right there? That's why art matters. You changed that kid's life tonight. He changed mine too, Marcus said. Reminded me why I did this, why any of this matters. 11:30 p.m. Family Moment. After the gallery closed and the crowd dispersed, Marcus's family remained. They stood together in the empty gallery, surrounded by paintings that told the story of Marcus's hidden life. Juanita stood in front of Hiding, the painting of young Marcus creating art in secret. She was crying quietly. "I'm so sorry, baby," she said when Marcus approached. "I missed this. I missed you struggling. I thought I was being a good mother by giving you space, by not pushing. But I should have seen, should have known." Marcus hugged her tightly. "Mom, you were a great mother. You loved me unconditionally. You showed up when Dad and I were struggling to understand each other. You protected me during the divorce. This," he gestured to the painting, "this wasn't your fault. I hid it because I wasn't ready to be seen. That's on me, not you." Jeffrey stood with his arm around their mother. "For what it's worth, I'm sorry too. I always teased you about not being into basketball. I didn't get that you had your own thing, your own gifts. You didn't know because I didn't tell you. We all did the best we could with what we knew." Michael approached the painting last, studying the image of his teenage son hiding in a closet, creating beauty in secret. "This breaks my heart," he said quietly. "Knowing you felt like you had to hide. Knowing I created an environment where being different felt dangerous. Dad, you didn't create that alone. Society did. Celebrity culture did. The pressure came from everywhere. You, yes, but also coaches, media, strangers who compared us. My own fear of not measuring up. You're not solely responsible." "Maybe not solely," Michael said, "but partially. And I'm sorry for that part. And if I could go back—" "We can't go back," Marcus interrupted gently. "We can only go forward. And we're doing that. Together. Finally honest. Finally seeing each other. That's what this painting represents. The before. But look around at everything else I created after. The journey. The struggle. And look at what I painted right before my arrest." He led his father back to enough. The sunset painting of father and son at peace. "I painted what I wanted. And then life gave me the chance to actually have it. We're living this painting now, Dad. We made it real." Michael stared at the painting, then at his son, then pulled Marcus into an embrace that felt like forgiveness and love and promise, all wrapped together. "I'm so proud of you," Michael whispered. "Not for the sales or the success of the opening, but for having the courage to be yourself. That's the bravest thing anyone can do." They stood there, father and son, in a gallery full of truth that had waited 20 years to be revealed. The secret was finally out. The performance was over. The masks had been removed. And underneath everything, underneath the fame and the expectations and the addiction and the recovery, was something simple and profound. Two people learning to love each other exactly as they were. Not as legend and disappointment, not as icon and failure, just as father and son, just as Michael and Marcus, just as enough. Midnight. Closing thoughts. Elena locked the gallery door behind the Jordan family. As they stood on the sidewalk, Chicago's summer night warm around them, Marcus looked back at the gallery windows, His paintings were visible through the glass, lit even in darkness, waiting for tomorrow's visitors. "How do you feel?" Yvette asked. Marcus thought about it. 6 months ago, he'd been in handcuffs. 3 months ago, he'd been in treatment. 1 month ago, he'd been terrified these paintings would be rejected, that his truth wouldn't be enough. Now he stood here, sober, authentic, seen, and somehow still standing. "I feel free," he said finally, "like I've been holding my breath for 20 years, and I can finally exhale." Michael put his arm around his son's shoulders. "You ready to go home?" "Yeah. But Dad? Tomorrow, can we come back? I want to see how people react to the paintings when we're not here. When it's just them and the art." "Absolutely. We'll come back every day if you want." They walked toward the waiting car, a family forever changed by honesty, by crisis, by the courage to finally be real. Behind them, in the gallery windows, enough glowed under the lights. 2 figures at peace, finally together, finally free. The truth had been revealed, and the truth had set them all free. Los Angeles, California, February 14th, 2026, 7:30 a.m. Marcus woke to sunlight streaming through the windows of his Santa Monica apartment. 1 year, 365 days since the arrest that had destroyed and saved his life in equal measure. He lay still for a moment, taking inventory. Clear head, steady hands, no craving for cocaine or alcohol, no crushing depression, just the quiet awareness of being alive, sober, and present. His phone showed messages. "Dad, 1 year, son. So proud of you. Breakfast this morning? Mom, happy anniversary of your new life. I love you. Jeffrey, 365 days clean. You're an inspiration, bro." Elena, "The New York Gallery called again. They want to schedule your show for April. Call me." Marcus smiled, typing quick responses to each. Then he got up, made coffee, and walked to his studio. The spare bedroom of his apartment transformed into a creative space that smelled like paint and possibility. 3 new canvases leaned against the wall, all in various stages of completion. His latest series explored recovery itself, the painful beauty of rebuilding, the terrifying freedom of authenticity, the small daily victories that nobody sees but that mean everything. One painting showed a figure standing at the edge of an ocean, waves washing over their feet, face turned toward the rising sun. He'd titled it Day 1, representing the first day of sobriety, the first day of honesty, and the first day of actually living. Another depicted hands reaching up through dark water toward light. Breaking surface. The moment of choosing life over death, truth over performance. The third was unfinished, a self-portrait, but different from any he'd created before. This Marcus looked directly at the viewer. No masks, no performance, just steady presence. Eyes clear, expression peaceful, alive. He didn't have a title yet, but he'd know it when he found it. 8:45 a.m. Breakfast with Michael. They met at a quiet cafe in Manhattan Beach, a place tourists rarely found, where locals gathered for coffee and conversation without cameras or autographs. Michael was already seated when Marcus arrived, reading the Los Angeles Times sports section. He looked up and smiled, standing to embrace his son. "You look good," Michael said. "Healthy." "I feel good, really good." Marcus sat down, ordering coffee and oatmeal when the server appeared. 1 year sober. I never thought I'd make it this far. I always knew you would. Once you committed to recovery, really committed, I knew you'd succeed. You have your mother's stubbornness and my competitive drive. When you apply that to staying sober, staying honest, you're unstoppable. They ate in comfortable silence for a few minutes. Then Michael spoke again. "I've been thinking about something. About us. About this past year." "What about it?" "A year ago today, I was sitting in my house in Jupiter, getting that phone call from the police, hearing that you'd been arrested. And I remember thinking, I've failed as a father. I've won 6 championships, built a billion-dollar brand, I'd accomplished everything I set out to do in basketball. But I failed at the most important thing, being present for my son." Marcus started to protest, but Michael held up his hand. "Let me finish. I spent this year doing my own work. Therapy, reading about addiction and mental health, learning how to actually listen instead of just trying to fix things. And I realized something. I didn't fail you. I failed to see you. There's a difference." He leaned forward, his eyes serious. "You were always enough, Marcus, from the day you were born. But I made you feel like you had to be something specific to earn my love, my approval, my pride. And that was my failure, not yours." "Dad." "I'm not looking for you to make me feel better about it," Michael continued. "I'm just saying I see it now. I understand what I did wrong. And I'm grateful that you gave me the chance to do better. That your crisis became our opportunity to actually know each other." Marcus felt tears gathering. Even after a year of therapy, of honest conversations, of rebuilding their relationship, these moments still hit hard. "You've shown up every single week for a year," Marcus said. "Family therapy, phone calls, visiting the exhibition, supporting my art. You didn't have to do any of that." "Yes, I did. You're my son. Showing up is the minimum. I should have been doing it all along." They sat with that truth, 2 men learning how to love each other better, how to be father and son, without the weight of expectation crushing them both. "I'm painting you," Marcus said suddenly, "for the New York exhibition. A portrait. Not Michael Jordan the icon. Just Michael, my dad. I'm the person you actually are underneath everything else." Michael's eyes glistened. "I'd be honored." 11 a.m., Overtown Youth Center, Miami, video call. Marcus had flown back to Miami every other weekend for the past 6 months, continuing his work at Overtown Youth Center, even though his community service requirement had been fulfilled in October. The kids had become important to him, especially Destiny, the 15-year-old whose fragmented self-portrait had reminded him of his own teenage art. Today, he video-called into the art room where the students were working on their final projects for a citywide youth art competition. "Mr. Marcus," Destiny's face appeared on the screen, excited. "I finished it! The painting I've been working on." "Show me." She turned the phone toward a large canvas, a phoenix rising from flames. But the flames were made of words. Not good enough. Too much. Too little. Wrong. Failure. The phoenix rising above them was beautiful, fierce, free. "Destiny, that's incredible," Marcus said, genuinely moved. "The symbolism, the technique, the message, you're telling your story. I learned from you, from your exhibition, about being honest in art, about painting what's real instead of what's pretty. You're going to win that competition. I'm calling it now." A voice in the background, Charisse, the program director. "Marcus, tell her about the scholarship." Destiny's eyes widened. "What scholarship?" Marcus grinned. "So I might have established a fund. The Marcus James Art Scholarship for Overtown Youth. It provides full tuition to any art school or program the recipient wants to attend, plus supplies, housing assistance, everything. The first scholarship will be awarded in May. Applications are open now. Destiny's hand flew to her mouth. Are you serious? Completely serious? You should apply. Your work deserves to be seen, to be developed, to be taken seriously. Art saved my life. I want to make sure kids like you, kids like I was, have the chance to pursue it. After they hung up, Marcus sat with the warmth of that interaction. This was why staying sober mattered. Why doing the work mattered, not just for himself, but for everyone his recovery might touch. 2 p.m. therapy session. Marcus still saw Dr. Chen 3 times a week, twice for individual therapy, once for group. Today was individual. So, Dr. Chen began, settling into her chair. 1 year. How are you feeling about that milestone? Proud. Grateful. Terrified. Terrified of what? Marcus thought about it. That I'll mess it up. That I'll relapse. That I'll wake up one day and be that person again. The one who drove drunk and high at 95 miles per hour, who hurt people, who was slowly killing himself. That's a common fear in recovery. The worry that you're just one bad day away from losing everything you've built. But Marcus, look at what you've created this year. Look at the infrastructure you've put in place. She ticked off on her fingers. You attend therapy 3 times a week. You go to AA meetings 4 times a week. You take your medication consistently. You've built a community of sober friends. You've reconnected with your family honestly. You've created art that processes your emotions instead of numbing them. You've found purpose through your work with the youth center. You're not white-knuckling sobriety. You're living a life you don't want to escape from. Marcus absorbed that. I guess I never thought about it that way. Early recovery is about not using. Long-term recovery is about building a life you want to be present for. You're doing that. The Marcus from a year ago was trying to escape his life. The Marcus sitting here now is engaged with his life. That's the difference. What about the fear, though? Does it ever go away? The fear transforms. It becomes less about relapsing and more about not wanting to lose what you've built. That's actually a healthy fear. It keeps you vigilant without paralyzing you. You're not afraid of who you'll become if you use. You're protective of who you are now. That's growth. 5 p.m. Amelia Island, Florida. Marcus drove to Amelia Island, at the same beach from his painting, Enough. He'd asked his father to meet him here at sunset, a deliberate recreation of the painting that had started their journey toward each other. Michael's car pulled into the parking lot at 5:45 p.m. They walked to the beach together, finding a quiet spot away from other visitors, and sat in the sand just like the figures in the painting. I brought something, Marcus said, pulling a small wrapped package from his backpack. For you. An anniversary gift, I guess. Michael unwrapped it carefully. Inside was a small canvas, 8 inches by 10 inches, showing 2 hands clasped together. One hand wore a championship ring, the other wore a sobriety chip. The painting was titled Legacy. Marcus, Michael's voice broke. Your legacy isn't just championships, Dad. It's also this, teaching me that it's okay to be human, to struggle, to need help, to be imperfect. That's the legacy that saved my life. Michael stared at the painting, tears streaming freely down his face. Thank you. I'll treasure this forever. They sat together as the sun began its descent, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink and purple, the same colors Marcus had used in Enough. You know what I've learned this year? Michael said after a while. That winning isn't what I thought it was. I spent my career chasing championships, believing that was the measure of success. But sitting here with you, sober and healthy and honest, this feels like a bigger win than any finals trophy. Dad, those championships still matter. They're part of who you are. They're part of my career. But this, Michael gestured between them, this is part of who I am as a person, as a father. And it's more important. Marcus leaned his head on his father's shoulder, something he hadn't done since he was a small child. They sat like that as the sun touched the horizon, father and son, finally at peace. I love you, Dad. I love you too, son. More than I've ever been able to say. More than basketball. More than the brand. More than anything. The sun dipped below the ocean, and darkness began to fall. But between them, there was only light. 8 p.m., New York. Call back at his apartment. Marcus took the call from the New York Gallery. Patricia Morrison, at Morrison Contemporary in Chelsea. Marcus, we want to schedule your exhibition for April 15th through May 30th. Prime spring season. We're prepared to feature 20 pieces with Enough as the centerpiece. If we're talking full catalog, opening reception, potential museum acquisitions, this is a major opportunity. Marcus felt the familiar anxiety rise, the pressure, the expectations, the fear of not being enough. Then he remembered he was enough. The work was enough. He didn't have to prove anything anymore. I'll do it on one condition, Marcus said. Name it. Part of the proceeds from any sales go to addiction recovery programs and youth art education. I want this work to mean something beyond critical acclaim or commercial success. I want it to help people. Patricia was quiet for a moment. That's unusual, but I respect it. Let's say 20% of net proceeds go to charitable causes of your choosing. The gallery takes its standard 30% commission, and you keep 50%. Deal? Deal. After hanging up, Marcus sat at his desk and drafted an email to Dr. Chen, Elena, his family, sharing the news. But he didn't feel the need to post it on social media, to perform excitement for strangers, to prove his success to people who didn't matter. He just felt quietly proud, quietly grateful, quietly alive. 11:30 p.m. Final thoughts. Marcus stood in his studio, looking at the unfinished self-portrait. The version of himself that stared back was unrecognizable from the person he'd been a year ago. Healthier, calmer, present. He picked up his brush and added one final element to the painting. In the background, barely visible, the shadow of another figure. Not looming or oppressive, just present. His father's shadow, transformed from burden to blessing, from weight to connection. He signed the painting Marcus James and finally knew what to title it. Authentic. Because that's what he was now. What he'd fought so hard to become. What he'd almost died refusing to be. Authentic, flawed, recovering, creating, loving, living. His phone buzzed one last time. A text from a number he didn't recognize. Hi, this is David. We met at your Chicago exhibition. I just wanted to let you know. I switched my major to dance. My parents aren't happy, but I'm happy. You helped me find the courage. Thank you for being honest. It gave me permission to be honest, too. Marcus read the text 3 times, his heart full. This was why it all mattered. Why staying sober mattered. Why sharing his art mattered. Why being authentic mattered. Not for fame or money or approval. For connection. For helping others find their own path to enough. He typed back, David, I'm so proud of you. Dance your heart out. The world needs your authentic gift. And thank you for telling me. Messages like this remind me why I do this work. Why I stay sober. Why I keep showing up. You've given me a gift today. Marcus set down his phone and walked to his window. Los Angeles sparkled below him, Millions of lives unfolding in millions of apartments and houses and moments, each person struggling with something, hiding something, searching for permission to be themselves. 1 year ago, he'd been destroying his life on a Miami highway. Tonight, he was sober, creating art, helping others, living an honest relationship with his family. 1 year ago, he'd been dying. Tonight, he was alive. And that was enough. More than enough. It was everything. Marcus Jordan, Marcus James, turned from the window, back to his canvas, back to his life. And whispered to himself the words he'd needed to hear at 16, at 25, at 33. You are enough, just as you are. You always have been. Finally, he believed it. And believing it had set him free. And that was the end of Marcus Jordan's story. A journey from rock bottom to redemption. From hiding in shadows to living in light. From addiction and despair to sobriety and purpose. A father and son who found each other through crisis. Who learned that being enough doesn't mean being perfect. It means being real. Marcus's story reminds us that it's never too late to ask for help. Never too late to be honest, and never too late to become who you were always meant to be. Now, we'd love to know, where are you listening from? Drop your city and country in the comments below. And it's amazing to see how stories like this connect people from all around the world. If this story moved you, please hit that like button. It helps us reach more people who might need to hear Marcus's message of hope and recovery. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more emotionally engaging true stories that inspire, challenge, and remind us of our shared humanity. We share stories that matter, stories about resilience, redemption, and the courage to be authentic. And here's the most important part. Share this video with your friends and family. You never know who might be struggling in silence. Who might need to hear that asking for help is strength, not weakness. Who might need permission to be themselves instead of who everyone expects them to be. Together, we can spread kindness, awareness, and hope. One story at a time. Thank you for listening. Take care of yourselves, and remember, you are enough, exactly as you are. See you in the next story.